Good morning. It is 10:01 a.m. on Monday, July 10th, 2023. To call this meeting of the Wichita County Commissioners Court to order. If everyone would stand, Commissioner Mahler is going to give our invocation.
Thank you, Judge. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today to bring thanks for the many blessings that you bestow upon us. Lord, when you've lived in a place as long as I have, we realize very well that a rain in July is not an accident. It's a blessing, and we thank you for it. Lord, we thank you for the blessing of living in the greatest country on the face of the earth, not just now, but in the history of the earth. And we thank you for that blessing because you've allowed us to do that. Lord, we would ask that you would bless our county family, the many people who invest their time, invest their lives to make things better for Wichita County. And we've got a whole group of them that work day in and day out. Lord, we thank you for the people that allow us to sit in these seats to make decisions to help move this county forward. And we just ask that you would help us make decisions that would be pleasing to them and also to you. Lord, bless us, guide us, and direct us. And we ask these things in the name of your precious Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right, let's do the pledge to the U.S. flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now, the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, everyone, you may be seated. We are going to push back the presentation of the Employee of the Month Award until a later week. So at this time, I will ask Heather Simpson of Better Living for Texas to come up and give us an update on programming and information. Share information. There we go.
Thank you. I'm actually going to leave some handouts here if anybody in the back here would like to take a look at what we're going to talk about today. I just wanted to come in and give an interpretation on what Better Living for Texans has been doing in Wichita County. I haven't been here and actually done an interpretation specifically on my programming in probably about 6 months. So I just wanted to give you a rundown of what we've been doing. So as you know, Better Living for Texans is funded through SNAP Ed and USDA funds. And so we are in every county, I believe, right now in Texas. The Better Living for Texans agents are. And so our focus areas are nutrition, physical activity, and gardening. And so over the last year, I would actually say since COVID restrictions started, gardening obviously has exploded. But really they have been a massive interest in the schools. And so that has been a very, very large focus of mine since we've been back into schools, really. So our Learn, Grow, Eat, and Go program has now been picked up by WFISD as approved curriculum for 3rd through 5th grade. We have been able to offer 2nd grade classes and middle school and high school special ed students as well. And so we have reached 3 or 4 different schools within WFISD and also Iowa Park 2nd graders at Kidwell. All of the 2nd graders participated in Learn, Grow, Eat, and Go. This year they ended in May, and then they also did it the year prior in 2021, 2021-2022 school year. And so that has been wonderful. It's a lot of work in terms of an agent standpoint because I'll have easy 200 kids that we are reaching all at once. And so the teachers are valuable to us. So we provide the training, the resources, any type of outside help, and then obviously the master gardeners, David, myself, anybody else that knows about gardening will come in and help facilitate any large-scale projects that they have. But we have found that even some teachers that are not really into gardening, a massive garden, bed and taking care of it all year long, we have been able to offer very basic container gardens for the kids, and they're able to take those home. And so for that 10 weeks that the curriculum runs, they not only learn the basics of gardening, but most importantly, they are learning about nutrition and not just growing your own food, but tasting new fruits and vegetables, preparing new fruits and vegetable recipes, and also, how to follow My Plate and what that really means. Because they know what My Plate is. They see the My Plate symbol in the cafeteria, but some of them really don't dive deep into that education, so it's a great experience for them. And so we had, in May, we had reached 237 youth graduates just in our BLT gardening series. That also included our early childhood Learn, Grow, Eat, and Go. So last year, the BLT state office launched our Learn, Grow, Eat, and Go for early childhood, so it's pre-K through K kindergarten youth, and so the YMCA picked that up, and early Head Start to pick that up. I'm hoping that I can get into Head Start now that WFISD kind of knows who we are. And so we will be able to get those little kids. That program has been fantastic. Those kids absolutely love gardening. They get outside, they get to taste fruits and vegetables that they've never tasted before. Some of these kids have never been exposed to just some things that I think some of us may take for granted. They've never had broccoli or red leaf lettuce or even bok choy. And so we are able to provide them a lesson almost every single day for 4 weeks, and they get to not only garden, but they get to taste recipes, and we prepare them right in front of them. So it's been fantastic. So we're looking forward to continuing that in the following years. So some of the things that we found to be interesting with our pre and post surveys, specifically with Learn, Grow, Eat, and Go. Obviously, the early childhood Learn, Grow, Eat, and Go, we don't do surveys for them, we do observations. But we had 72% of the kids more willing to taste vegetables, where in the beginning of the series, they didn't want to have anything to do with them. So some of the things that we feel is really effective in getting that behavior change is they are able to actually use a knife in our classes, plastic, of course, and they're able to mix and stir and grate and cook their own meals. So we will have 100 kids at a time in one cafeteria room. It's done very strategically, and they are able to watch me demonstrate quickly how to make a very simple child-approved recipe, and then they are able to emulate that, and they spend 45 minutes with their groups making that recipe and tasting it. And so, where a kid wouldn't normally taste red leaf lettuce and balsamic vinegar dressing with some strawberries in it, they're devouring it because they've cooked it themselves or they've prepared it themselves. So they really enjoy that, and they all go home with aprons. So it's a great thing that I'm excited just to continue and just grow in the county. So with that, we are still working towards our adult graduates. We have finished our spring series with adults. So we were able to reach many adults within our physical activity and nutrition classes this year. Gardening has been good, but it's just seasonal. So we'll have, that spring garden kind of, they want all the spring gardening information. But the physical activity series has always been very popular among the adults. And so I take a lot of pride in that. That's where my background is. So that's something that I very much enjoy offering the community. So we ran an 8-week Walk Across Texas program. We did kind of push it out to county employees. We also had Early Head Start. All the teachers at all the locations of Early Head Start across Wichita County did participate. It's an 8-week program, and weekly we provided a newsletter. We provided a Facebook group if they wanted to join it, and we gave 3 times a week, we gave different nutrition, physical activity, and motivation, and goal setting, and things like that. And then they were encouraged to walk, obviously. So their team that they created prior to enrolling was to walk 832 miles, which is the distance across Texas. And so we kind of give them information about that throughout the 8 weeks. So that was very well received, and I'm definitely going to be running that program again next year. I think that was something that the adults just enjoyed because it's a good time of year. It's still cool outside, so we're encouraging them to get out and walk around. I think next year I'm going to do some filming and hit different spots in the county, and that way they can see where they can go and get outside and walk. And so I think that would be something that we can just kind of figure out where the best spots downtown are and things like that, just to get them, encourage them people to go outside more. And then also we have our nutrition series, which has always been one of our main focuses. So our nutrition series have really been huge, especially around COVID, but our healthy carbohydrate series and our Get the Facts series has been something that is the most popular. So, they want to know, what is a carb, what is a fat, what is a protein, how does that affect your body? And so with diabetes on the rise nationwide, the rate of obesity in Wichita County, it's really important that we offer those types of programs so we can help reduce the chronic disease illness risk. You do have a state of health report that I've put together. It's the handout in blue. Excuse me. These are from the County Health Rankings and Roadmaps website. Comes from the census and the CDC, all of that raw data. But on the back, you can kind of see a more detailed breakdown. But the things that I focus on when I'm putting together my plans for the year, did you not get one?
Nope.
Here. Is our cardiovascular death rates at 50 deaths per 10,000 people. So in the county, averaging 100,000, you're looking at, thank you, you're looking at about 500 deaths a year. I will say this data was only updated up until 2021. Some of the numbers came from 2022. So next year I'll do an interpretation of this sort here, and we can kind of see what last year's data was. That's just how they do it. Also too, just looking at our SNAP Ed rates. So SNAP participants in Wichita County right now, there is approximately almost 17,000 recipients. So that is individuals, that's not just households. So 17,000 individuals are receiving SNAP Ed in Wichita County currently. That's of, I believe, June 2023. And so there is a definite need for Better Living for Texans programming, as well as what the city does. And so we are starting now to collaborate more with the city, which is great. We have been working together and doing some programming with the kids and adults, specifically at the All Hands Community Center. And so I'm hoping to be able to get into some gardening programs there, because they have an extremely large community garden. And so I'm really hoping that they understand the value of AgriLife Extension. I think that's something that is needed over there. So the adults really need to know how to manage that garden. And I do know that they have employees that take care of that garden, but it would be great to have the community actually take some ownership of it as well. And so when we think about that, though, you still have children in poverty. In Wichita County, it is 19%. And with the SNAP rates as it is too, those I really want to get on the east side of town more, and to those areas where they are going, churches and things like that on that area of town, because there is a huge need there. And I'm just trying my best to get into those locations and seeing how I can best help them if they want it. So is there any questions?
Looks like we're on the bad side of both outcomes and factors all the way down the list.
Yes.
Is that a regional thing?
I would say
is that unique
that
to Wichita
is.
County, or?
Yes. Well, when I look at the state as a whole, we are pretty comparable to many counties. You're going to have your counties that are a little bit more active than others, but if you look at Dallas and Houston and like Tarrant County and all of those larger counties in the state, they are pretty comparable to the state rates versus where they're at. But we have more green space, obviously, than Tarrant County, for example. You have so much infrastructure there, and you don't have a lot of, like, the only place somebody can go to work out, for example, without going to a gym would be a park, and that's not always accessible to everybody. And so while we do have a lot of green space, we don't have the areas where people can just feel safe enough to go out and walk. It depends on who the person is, what kind of transportation they have, what their income means are. So it's hard to say, oh, well, we all need these wonderful, beautiful parks on every corner, right? Because then you have a slew of things that need to happen for that to change. But Just being able to offer some sort of physical activity education or nutrition education to give these people empowerment to go out and do those things on a limited budget is really important. And so that's where I focus on.
You're not about to run out of customers, are you?
No. I don't think anybody is. I mean, if you look at any state, it is very much, you're going to have your states that have a high rate of obesity for sure. But you have to also look at what are the typical jobs? What is the median income? What is the infrastructure like? You know, I'm from the West Coast originally. I've lived in Las Vegas my whole life. And you still have a high rate of obesity there. It's 120 degrees over 100 days of the year. You have a beautiful park and everything on every corner, but not everybody wants to go outside and do those types of things. So then you go, oh, well, I'll go to a gym. Not everybody has the funds to go to a gym. So you always have some sort of, there's always something that you can say can be improved in any county.
This, Heather, is shocking to me. Down at the bottom, 90% of our total healthcare expenditure in this country is preventable,
Yes.
and that's just amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I can probably have a conversation with somebody about this for a really long time because it's what I do. But, mental health is a huge issue as well. And that really deters people from getting up and moving or wanting to be proactive in their health. You then have the healthcare in itself is in need of major restructuring. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So, you have so many different entities that are coming together to create these numbers that we are seeing right now. But if we can get enough, for me, I feel that employee health is really important, right? So if you have great employee health programs, if you have churches that are offering their congregations health options, that's another huge thing, especially in this area of the country, because people put a lot of trust into their church and those groups that they hang out in. You have to be able to have that kind of healthy culture. So just creating a healthy culture wherever we go is really important. Yeah.
Heather, just an indication of how big your job is. In the last several months, I don't remember exactly when it was, and I'll not mention names or locations, but I stopped at the grocery store and bought quite a few vegetables, and I got ready to check out, and the fact that they had somebody checking you out is amazing.
Yeah.
But this young lady that checked me out did not know what those vegetables were. I had to tell her.
Yeah.
And I asked her, I said, how is it that you don't know what these vegetables are? She said, nobody in my house ever cooked a meal.
Exactly.
When I was growing up.
Exactly.
Never. So
Yeah.
we never used our kitchen, never cooked anything. And I
Yeah.
thought, that is so foreign to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I was just taken aback, but that may be more common than we know.
Yes.
It was fast food, takeout, maybe something popped in the microwave, but absolutely had never cooked a meal growing up.
Yeah.
Nobody in her family ever had. So,
Yep. And that is, I see that often. I go to the
Yeah.
grocery store sometimes
Yeah.
4 times a week for this job, depending on what my programs are. And certain grocery stores, you will hear that more than other areas of town grocery stores. But I have had people say to me, like, what are you cooking with all of this healthy stuff? Whereas I feel it's just a generational thing. We're very much used to fast food already being prepared, So just having that empowerment to be able to cook something that looks intimidating and make it simple, but it's very cost effective and healthy is what we do. So
just looking at the stats here, I think the fact that we drink more, that we'd be happier.
well, okay.
We're gonna lead the state in something, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, but if you need any more information on any of this, I'll be happy to help answer any questions, and I will be back and reporting what we've done this summer, at the end of the summer or in the beginning of the fall, and we'll kind of see where our numbers are at then. So.
It is eye-opening.
Yes, it is. It makes you want to go eat some broccoli
It's-
and take a walk.
Yeah, this is not good news.
No, it's not.
This is
It
this is
isn't, it
terrible.
isn't, but you know, it's the best. I will
Yeah, no.
say this, and I'll leave with this. We do have a planning committee that meets 4 times a year specifically for better living for Texans. And so our planning committee has some county employees, we have a lot of nonprofit employees on that committee. And our main focus in fiscal year 2024 is to reach adults, because it's very easy to get the kids right now, but why aren't these adults coming? That's something that will probably rack my brain forever, but.
Like we missed a generation there.
You know, there's so many things. There's so many reasons why people aren't coming to programs. Yeah.
Heather, do y'all track the folks that go through the program overall long term to see if it sticks or not?
No, we don't. That would be something to do. I think that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
it's
I
successful.
feel like the way BLT could track it is because we reach a specific audience
Yeah.
with low income and underserved audiences. You can look at those numbers and recipients and that, and then these numbers here. That's really overall how they track it. I do try to get success stories if I can. I do see the same people sometimes in my classes, which that's a good thing. That means they're coming back. The older generation, so I would say anyone over the age of 50, they're very interested in these programs. They're getting it because they're understanding the value of their health. But I would say, 21 through 45, they're stressed out and working. That's kind of what I think in my head. Like, what's happening? Where are we missing? How can we reach that audience?
I know the Valley used to have very similar and worse numbers than we did, but they've made significant improvements
They
over
have.
the last 10 years.
They have a
They
lot
have
of
a-
collaboration
They
too.
do, and they had a champion, somebody
Yes.
that got out ahead of
Yes,
everything.
and that is a huge thing that I believe that we need to improve in this county, the city. We have got to collaborate more,
Yeah,
increase our reach that way.
yeah, I know
So,
they've improved drastically.
yes,
from
they have.
what I've seen.
Yeah, so it really is a collaborative effort. So,
All
okay.
right. Any other questions? Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, at this time, let's see. It is 10:24. We will open up for public comment. As a reminder, we ask that anyone who decides to speak, keep their comments to 5 minutes or less, and no action will be taken on any items discussed during public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Judge, I'd like to mention that tomorrow is the final day that the county has some equipment listed on Purple Wave. If you're interested in maybe looking at some tractors or pickups or plows or various assortment of things, to check out Purple Wave, get signed up and bid online. There's a very good pictures of everything that you can see and the contact information for every piece, and so it's easy to follow, and the sale's been very active for 2 weeks, and it'll close up starting at 10 o'clock tomorrow. It'll start winding down. Now, anytime at 10 o'clock, if there's a bid comes in on a tractor and drives it up $100, then it extends the bid for 5 more minutes and then gives people opportunity. So it doesn't close until all bids are received, and there's been no activity for 5 minutes starting at 10. So that's coming up tomorrow, and I just wanted to inform everybody to please go check it out.
Excellent. I would also like to welcome Carly Bindle, Representative Frank's District Director, who's come to listen in today, and I'm sure if you've got legislative issues, you can discuss them with her after the meeting. Do we have any other public comment? Okay. It is 10:26, and public comment is closed. So at this time, let's take up the consent agenda. I'm going to go ahead and pull item number 3 on the consent agenda, the interlocal cooperation agreement with Lubbock County for housing inmates. I'm going to pull that down to general business for discussions, if there's no objection to that. Okay.
And Judge, I just had some clarification questions.
Okay.
On the item 4, that $9,000,
It was a bill not received by us until later when they were auditing their records. We didn't have any record of that ever
Is it-
getting it.
is it just, what was it for, Cheryl?
It's juveniles, portion of their core health, or
Okay.
their July
Okay.
22 budget.
Okay.
But since it's 22 expenses, we can't use the 23 budget without the consent of the board.
Gotcha. That's all I had.
Okay.
Item 7.
Item 7, he did not bill as services were rendered to the county. He billed 2019 through 23, same thing. That's why we're bringing it to the court.
So, I called Judge McKnight about this.
Yeah.
Typically, our attorneys bill for their year that they served. He was an out-of-town appointed attorney on
Yeah.
a capital murder case,
Yeah.
and so may not have been aware of that practice.
Correct.
And so, I mean, you can see in the backup documents, Judge McKnight signed off on
He did.
the charges. But that's why we normally don't see these, because it was an out-of-town
So
attorney.
will they pay from each year respectively or out of this year?
Well, it'll have to all come out of 23. All those prior years are closed, that's why. Yep.
Then,
That's why we like to get these as they go, but.
yeah, and item number 8, what's,
That was for some map. I can tell you a little bit about that. Voter registration needed maps, overlays for redistricting, make sure people were in the right district. Paul Beta was able to get those maps, get it over to them.
should say
Didn't realize-
overlay of data, not overage of data.
No, no, no.
Pay them for extra data or?
Okay,
No, it's
so the
overage.
appraisal district has a certain amount of data that they can use, and
Oh.
because they were
Oh.
giving us a favor, they went over
Over
their
their
allotment.
data.
And
their
they-
I got
allotment.
it.
And they
I
didn't realize
was-
there was a fee for it
Did
till
not
after the fact.
understand what that.
Yeah,
that
the
even
appraisal
meant.
district didn't know there was a fee, the county clerk's office didn't know there was going to be a fee. It's-
Okay,
It's,
no.
it's,
Yeah.
I
It
just
just
didn't
used
understand
more
it,
than-
so,
yeah.
okay, very good. Motion to approve with
Second.
moving that item down.
Second.
We got a motion to approve the consent agenda with item number 3 pulled down to general business by Commissioner Beecham, seconded by Commissioner Kincannon. Do we have any comment on the consent agenda? All right, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Moving along to general business item number 1, review and approve the regular bills for payment. Order county treasurer to disperse payroll and bill payments within 72 hours via U.S. mail, FedEx, UPS, or electronically, unless directed otherwise, or may be picked up and ledgered in the treasurer's office.
So, second.
I have a question on that.
Okay?
I just want to make sure I'm clear with the auditor here and the treasurer here. Specify 72 hours for me, and when are these bills approved today that we looked at Friday?
Yes, now is when
So-
you're approving them, so 72 hours from this vote.
And so then they need to be in the mail this week,
Yes, and they are.
bills to be paid.
Mhm.
Okay, I
Yep.
just want to make sure I'm clear and I wasn't counting my hours.
Yeah, it doesn't count from Friday, it counts from the vote, because this is when you're actually approving them.
Right, we try to get them out as fast as possible. The holiday obviously was not counted in that
Right,
72,
it's
things like
72
that
business hours.
can push it back. But we try to get them out the next day if we know there's nothing
But for
erroneous or
instance,
something, so.
like, let's just say there was a bill we wanted to hold, like, you had to pass it, but we didn't really want to send it a wire transfer till Friday because we want to maximize our interest. Then here's where we have the otherwise directed. This is where the treasurer or myself would say, hey, we want you to approve it, but we want to hold this bill till Friday and then wire transfer it. That would be outside the 72 hours, but it would let us maximize our interest earnings before the bill would be due.
But unless y'all specifically ask
That's
Right.
where
for
that-
It
that
has to
and
be
we
seven-
approve it in
right.
72 hours.
Right, and the other one was when we had some errors or something was printed twice or something like that. Obviously, wouldn't count in there.
Oh, yeah, but that's a duplicate.
And we did used to hold some of those for LEC payments.
Yes.
Hold them till Friday.
Any other questions?
I have a comment real quick.
Yeah.
We started at the beginning of June, the auditor's office started implementing the EFT payments. The first one it started off glitchy. It's kind of been a plague on both our houses. But this week, we've got 105 vendors that are signed up for EFT now. And over $90,000 worth of our bills are going out EFT, saving my office a ton of time. I'm sure it's going to start saving your office a ton of time.
Oh, postage.
It's going to save us a ton on postage, but it's a glitchy process that we're finding errors every week, but we're also fixing them every week.
I know we've had vendors ask, though.
We've had some vendors
We're
ask.
not-
Yeah.
We're not requiring them. We're suggesting that they do sign up for that, but it's not 100%
Sure.
requirement.
Yeah.
We're
They can-
trying to move that way,
Yeah.
100%, as most places are going. We're
Yeah, that'd be
trying to-
great if we could click a few buttons and we could have them paid.
Yeah, vendor self-service, when we roll that out, will make this easier as well, because they'll be able to log in and see all of their check stubs, kind of like employee self-service where you can log in, see, there's a vendor self-service for that as well, and, it just hasn't rolled
But
out.
there's some of
yet.
our mom and pop vendors that we use that, like the
They'll-
old fashioned way. and
They'll never go
They'll
that way.
never go that way.
But they won't live forever either.
And that's a vast minority too.
That's a very small percentage.
I know, it is, but.
Yeah.
And
but
it might be
just-
where we have to reevaluate, value to the
but I
county.
know,
But-
I know I've been contacted, and I think others have been contacted as well by vendors that have concerns that they're not.
They're
And
getting their money
So,
faster.
tell me,
It's not my argument, I'm just making sure we can.
I've
still
had
do it
several
the
people ask me
old-fashioned way.
questions too, and usually it's something that I can email
Oh, yeah.
over there and we can figure out what went wrong and we can fix it in the
Yeah.
next week it goes better.
Most of
So
them are,
it's going to
we're
happen.
getting lots of great feedback though on it.
Yeah.
I'm
The more
sure.
we hear, the more we can fix.
Yeah.
well, and help me with this. So let's say all four of our precincts have an expenditure on let's just say it's janitorial supplies, along with maintenance in the courthouse. 5 different entities. How do you EFT that vendor, that payment?
It comes out of 5 EFTs,
Mm-hmm.
because it's gonna come out of each one of your bank accounts and then the general fund, and they'll be able to match it up with their invoices.
Mhm.
Yep, it doesn't come all at once, because you're coming out of 4 different bank accounts.
But they were getting 5 different checks anyway. So
Yeah,
now we're
they
getting
were
5
gonna get
different
5
EFTs
checks
instead of 5
anyway,
different
so
checks.
now they're just getting 4 direct deposits, or 5 direct deposits.
No, I think it's a good thing, I just.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, that's what I said.
Clarifying things.
Just clarifying things.
Yeah.
That was my main comment, was that it's been glitchy and it's been taking some time and energy, but it's going great.
Well, no new process ever is seamless. Every new process that's gonna have its learning challenges, and in a year from this, won't even look back that it was even an
Yeah.
issue.
And-
It's like when we moved to time clock, or we went to Munis, or we went to this.
Yeah. And the folks in Cheryl's office have been doing great with helping to get this out and get it fixed as fast as we can. So
And I'm hoping to roll out vendor self-service by the end of the year. That's the goal, so. One process at a time.
so positive stuff.
I mean, we did pay for it, so.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Buchanan, seconded by Commissioner Beecham, to approve the bills for payment. Do we have any other comment on this item? All right, the motion's before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Which brings us to item number 2 on general business, receive presentation of the county's fleet synopsis by Nick Hardwick of Enterprise Fleet Management. Good morning, Mr. Hardwick.
Hello,
Welcome back.
good to see everyone again. Thanks so much. I assume everybody did receive the synopsis and also the list of the replacement schedule that I sent out last week. So really what we're reviewing today is an overview of the outcome of that. And obviously we spent quite a bit of time here in court, as well as, with the sheriff's department going through the list of vehicles in great detail as it relates to the fleet, what's there today, and what is needed into the future. Because obviously what we bought 10 years ago made sense 10 years ago, but maybe doesn't make sense today. And so that's really what this overview is. So currently the county has 172 vehicles in operation. Currently they're currently being used in one capacity, whether it's in a spare capacity or a daily use capacity. And as part of going through this, we discovered that we can actually do a reduction of the fleet down to 138 vehicles in operation, just because we're looking at the counts of vehicles needed across the entire county, obviously, that we need to operate. Everything is new, is going to stay new. It was determined that we could actually reduce the fleet in some areas, a lot of that being in the sheriff's department. So we are looking at reducing the fleet from 172 down to 138, which the current average age of the fleet is just over 11 years. I mean, is that your average hold time that you have today? Technically, the average age currently is around 15. It's closer to 15 years currently. But you're at, based on the trend over the last few years, you should be trending more towards the 11, 12 year mark. If y'all stay on your current trajectory that y'all have been on. So with that, we're looking at reducing the overall age of fleet down to a 4.6 year hold on average. So moving from that 11 year to that closer to a 4 year cycle would be the goal of this. And we're really looking at addressing 101 of those 138 vehicles in operation. There are roughly 37 vehicles that are either heavier duty stuff that you don't necessarily want to put onto a defined cycling plan of some sort, because they don't necessarily have a very clear-cut acquisition and resale market related to them, or they're specialized in some way. Not saying we wouldn't address them in the future, but for these purposes, I would not necessarily build them into the place schedule. More deal with those on a more case-by-case basis as they come up and as the county assesses its needs for those more specialized vehicles that we have. So we're projecting roughly a 2 mile per gallon reduction or improvement in the overall fuel economy of the fleet, which is very conservative given the overall age of the fleet. It really looks at historical data of what the current average miles per gallon improvement would be from running a much newer fleet, which is going to be somewhere around a 10% reduction in fuel cost by doing that. It doesn't sound like a lot, but you have enough vehicles that adds up to real money eventually. And we're looking at conservatively roughly a 50% reduction in the overall maintenance and repair expense of the county, that is I would say on the extreme conservative side. Typical outcomes that we're seeing is somewhere around 65 to 80% reduction in maintenance and repair expense for running such a cleaner cycling of the fleet, and being that your mileage patterns are relatively low in the county, and again, in relation to what the commercial market might be doing. We're talking about turning vehicles out, and they're going to have 40, 50, 60,000 miles on them before we have typically, knock on wood, before we have major repairs actually occurring over that period of time. So over the next 2 years of the program, we'll be looking to replace 77 vehicles over the next 2 years. We're going to do our best to try to replace 73 of them over the next 12 months. That may or may not be achievable based on what's going on with the market constraints of vehicles. But over the next 2 years, we are highly confident that we'll be able to replace roughly 77 of the 101 vehicles that we're going to be addressing as part of this program in partnership. So in the first 12 months of operation, once the new fleet's in place, because the county doesn't actually start paying for vehicles till they actually go into service. So once they're actually in service, we're projecting the year one expense of about roughly $900,000 in finance costs from actually replacing these 73 vehicles, and then about close to $950,000 in acquisition costs over the second year.
Now, back up there,
Yes, sir.
Nick. You said $900,000 in finance costs.
Yeah. So
You mean cash outlay to
Correct.
purchase vehicles,
Correct.
not the interest rate on monies we'll be paying.
yeah, correct. That's the total cost, including interest costs. I mean, all the above that we're projecting, and then we're projecting $560,000 in capital needed for outfitting of those vehicles. So that's putting lights and sirens and all the other fun stuff that the vehicles need. And that came from when we went through the list, a lot of that being from the sheriff's department, obviously, because they require a little bit more equipment to do their job properly. So that's the cost of all that equipment that's not included in the cost of the lease itself. And then we're also projecting a little over $900,000 in resale of the existing fleet of vehicles. So what's going to happen is, we're replacing 73 vehicles in the first 12 months of the partnership. Well, we're also selling off 100 plus vehicles that are going to be sold over that period of time as well. So as we bring new vehicles in, we pick up old vehicles and we get them sold. And so we're going to have an inbound revenue stream that's into the county that's more significant than the county's used to receiving in the past. And that's really what this is all about, knowing when to buy, when to sell, keep our operating costs as low as we possibly can, bring a revenue into the system that's not historically there, and to make this sustainable for a long period of time. And this is how we've been successful, across the state doing this, is knowing when to buy, when to sell, and really try to get y'all to mirror how we operate from our rental car brand is when we really had this model that's come from. I mean, the largest owner-operator buy or sell vehicles in the world today. We've taken that, translated that business operation and really into county and local government to be able to achieve this, make it sustainable for a long period of time, and get into more proactive approach to looking at how we manage fleet. And I would say that the cycling plan that I'm putting in here, it is a moving target, though. You know that. So what I recommend this year, and your account team is going to be working with the county, is being recommending something different next year and year after year, because the market is very dynamic at times, and so we want to be able to adapt to this. But as it currently stands, I'm projecting a 4.6 year cycle on average across the fleet. So if you go, there is a section that says cash flow. I think that's the more important one to really look at, because we don't, if we say we order all 73 vehicles tomorrow, they're not going into service tomorrow, right? So we have a period of time from getting the vehicles acquired, getting them outfitted. So I'm only projecting roughly 6 months of the new fleet being in service in the next fiscal year. And so because of that, the county only is going to have partial years finance payments. So we're not going to have a total of $900,000 technically in next fiscal. We're going to have $448,000 in finance payments, and then we're still going to have our same cost for outfitting the vehicle, so $560,000, but we're still going to have that same inbound revenue stream from the resale of those vehicles. So over next fiscal, we're only projecting we're going to spend about $45,000 in actual acquisition cost over the next replacing 73 vehicles. That's just because we have so much revenue stream coming in and not as much, and the capital outlay, they kind of balance each other out over the next fiscal. And then fiscal year 2, which is be the 24-25 fiscal year, would be when we'd see things sort of normalize, I guess you'd say. And if you look on that chart under the estimated resale, you can see where in year 26, 27 year, you see another large revenue stream coming in that year from resale. That's because we have a lot of those vehicles we acquired in the first year this year are coming up for resale again in that year. And so that's why you have that revenue stream coming in. As you can see that's sort of cyclical as it comes up again 4 years later, and so on and so forth.
And your cash flow is going to look pretty good, but you're selling equity. So when you get to your balance sheet, it's going to be a complete different picture.
Correct.
Say that again.
Well, the cash flow end of it, you're only going to spend $45,000, but you're selling a tremendous amount of equity that the county owns. So your balance sheet's going to look totally different from your cash flow analysis.
Well, you still
I mean, that's going to reflect the true expense because we're giving up equity and equipment that we own.
Yeah, but we've also depreciated it to some degree, so
And
depending
we'll
on
have to
the
recapture
age of,
some of that.
well, typically, in a business sense, yes, there would be recapture, but
But do we do that?
we don't.
We don't do that, okay.
no, because you're a government entity.
Right.
If you're a commercial entity, we're having a different conversation around
Correct.
how the balance sheet impact and
But-
EBITDA impact and things of that nature. But because you're a county
But
government,
yes, it still is not apples to apples with the balance
No,
sheet and
no,
cash flow,
because you're-
but we don't run into recapture issues.
You
if
still
we
have a
were
large
private
cash
entity.
outlay, or we're assuming we're going to finance these vehicles, but, you're selling, let's just say, apples for apples, you're selling $900,000 worth of vehicles, but you're buying $1 million worth of vehicles. So
Right.
your equity still exists in
Correct.
replacement of vehicles that are sitting on your shelf or lot or whatever.
that's correct. Because I won't say most, but I'd say 60, probably 70% of the government entities we work with are going to treat these as capital assets as well, because y'all own the equity in. So there's a debt covenant, and we've got the actual value of that vehicle, and that delta is the equity that the county still retains.
So you actually do build equity in these vehicles?
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
not I guess it's almost a difference between a rent and a lease.
Right, but we
Yeah.
are getting to
Right.
keep these,
Yeah.
so that they are ours, we're not.
And we're leasing them to get them paid for, but they're actually our vehicles. So
Right.
we're just carrying them over time.
Kind of a lease to own.
Would we have the option at the end to retain the vehicle?
Yeah,
Yes,
you
we
can run
always
them.
retain it.
At any point?
Yes.
Nick,
I
would
thought
you,
that was true.
and I know you talked about this when we had the Friday meeting, would you just real quickly explain what the open-ended?
Yeah, so it's called an open-ended because it's not like a traditional lease where you say you have X number of years, X number of miles. It's open-ended, meaning we can term it out, we can cycle it early, we can run it longer,
Yeah.
whatever it is. It's
Well,
called
there's gonna be a learning curve.
Yeah, there for sure. It's a little different than y'all used to,
Yeah.
but it's very common throughout the state. It's called equity because the county is retaining the equity in that vehicle as we sell it. So let's say we have a vehicle that, and this is going to happen every single year. We're gonna have a vehicle that we're getting to a point like, hey, we're gonna recommend, I know we intended to cycle this vehicle this year, let's don't cycle it this year, let's run it an extra year. Could be your mileage pattern changed, could be the market, really it's what the market's demanding. There could be a myriad of factors that really would impact the advice that we're giving. And so maybe that vehicle is fully amortized at that point in time. Well, the lease payments would stop and the vehicle would just keep operating. Even if you decide to keep that vehicle, to kingdom come, the vehicle just keeps operating until the time we dispose of that given
There's
vehicle.
the list of Tahoes in the sheriff's department. I'll pick on them. It's just that that's the kind of the largest single item.
For sure, yeah.
And we're gonna do a major replacement in '23. Will we continue to do that? Do them all at one time, or are we gonna rotate them out, or how
Yeah.
does that work?
So initially, we have them to turn every roughly five years. But like I said before, it's somewhat a moving target because as we get really good mileage pattern captures, especially as you get all new vehicles in, the mileage patterns usually change on a vehicle by vehicle basis. And so we're going to recommend, hey, let's cycle this one out early because it's getting a lot more miles. This one's we're going to recommend, hey, let's run this one out another year or so. And that's just going to be our recommendation. End of the day, I always say we're in the advice business, not the decision-making business. Our job is to come and give the county advice as far as
They'll automatically divide into high mileage.
Yeah, it'll naturally.
I understand that.
And the cycling pattern they'll naturally kind of even itself out. But the first tranche, it's a lot just because we're having to take care of so many vehicles that are already aged out in order to. It's kind of our catch-up year, I guess you'd say. We're catching up this first year, and then it'll naturally even itself out.
We've been rolling some of those out, some of the better ones, and retaining them for constables and others. How will we continue to do that?
No, you actually would not. Typically, I mean, you can do whatever you want at the end of the day, but typically we're going to buy a vehicle just for a constable, and that's going to maintain in the constables. You're not going to have to do that pass down thing and figure out which one's good, which one's not good. The vehicle's bought for the application at hand. And if we need to move it, that's okay, because that's going to happen. In a county this size, it's many things you'll have going on. You're naturally going to have some movement there, but the plan would be to buy it for the application that's needed for
And
it.
every single buying and selling decision comes before the court.
Correct,
to
yeah.
approve.
Yeah. So what's going to happen, and I'll talk a little bit about next steps here. How we go through this. So first thing that happens, judge executes our master agreements, and then we got to work with each commissioner, the sheriff's department head, whoever it is, to get them to approve the vehicles that we're going to replace for this given year that we're in. They're going to approve the specs, approve the equipment. I mean, we don't buy anything until all those things are done and are approved. And then once they do that, then we'll actually order said vehicles, and that's going to happen each and every year. We recommend replacing these 5 vehicles in precinct whatever, and then we're going to go to that commissioner and say, hey, these are the ones we're recommending. Here's why we're recommending them. They're going to give us a Caesar thumbs up, thumbs down on that. They're going to approve the equipment specs. Then we're actually going to order the vehicles at that point in time.
So after you get all the lists from everybody,
Correct.
it comes back to court for the yes or
Typically, no. Once the county approved you typically don't bring that back to court unless y'all want to.
Well, so that's gonna be my question, is
Is we should.
step before 3, I think would be for
The
the
court
Commissioner's
should-
Court to approve
Yes,
placement of those orders.
yes.
I mean, we can
No,
set that,
I think
that just gives us.
Yeah, otherwise you could have,
Because then we're paying for
anything.
something later that you haven't necessarily proved it does go outside of the bounds of the statutes.
However y'all want to do it. I mean, I can tell you how others do it, but however y'all want to do it is obviously up to y'all. But typically, once we've, I'm putting forth a 10-year budget here, and typically with other entities, as long as we're staying within the confines of the budget as approved here, and then vehicles get ebbed and flowed as needed through each and every precinct. As long as we've done that, and the only time it typically comes back to court with other entities, at least I'm saying this y'all, is when for some reason we're going to exceed the projected budget. But that's all.
Well, and I think that especially at the beginning, this is such a rapid,
Yeah.
an extreme shift from what we've
Yeah.
done before.
and Nick,
We
how,
might want
We
to-
currently have a
and
county
Nick, how do
policy.
you, under that scenario, if you didn't see them, how would you keep one department from insisting on XLTs and the other department buying work model trucks?
As far as, we will, if we see, just quite frankly, your account team that's working with y'all, if we see there being a shift in an area that's going to have a long-term impact on the budget in some way, those are things we'll actually bring to, county decision-making awareness, so that it could be addressed into a future court meeting, like, hey, here's what's been requested, and if we think it's gonna it's exceeding the projected budget, it's gonna have an impact to exceed the projected budget, we're gonna have to bring that back anyway, because we're gonna be busting the budget, and that we can't do that, obviously.
And
So,
is this replacement list, is this a flexible list?
oh yeah, for sure.
Because I know there's probably, we've only got 2 units, like from my precinct in there, and we're in the process right now of trying to actually spend some time and decide what we really need. In fact, I've got the guys working on that.
Yeah, same here, and
And-
plus there's maintenance vehicles that aren't on this list.
Yeah, and we'll wanna adjust that a little bit, we'll probably add 2 more. On one of them that's listed, which is my precinct 3 service truck, it calls for a cab and chassis. Is that are we gonna use our existing bed, or? how does that work?
Sorry, the one you're looking at, what's the budget for the equipment on the
I'm sorry.
Is there a
It's just 2,000.
2000?
Yeah,
It must be a transfer of a bed then.
it says chassis, class 3 crew cab, 4x4 white diesel.
Yeah, it allows $2,000 to put a
Yeah, to put a
utility
bed.
Is
bed.
it 10,000 on there? Then that's probably the replacement of a bed then.
Okay.
That was based on our conversation we had.
Yeah, we've
last-
got it, and we're not quite ready to nail it down to probably
I
at least 2
understand.
more units to adjust to what we
For sure.
really. We're trying to go into this, if we're gonna do this,
You're right.
let's don't do what we've always done, let's do what we need to
Yeah.
go
100%.
do what, and that's what we're working on even today.
And-
They're coming up with some thoughts on what we really need to
And
function.
Nick, what happens when we move into 26 and 27, and let's say we're at that point well invested, we've got a lot of leased equipment out there, we're making payments on that, and we realize that there is no option but crashing into 2030, and we're gonna be in electric vehicles.
Yeah, that's why I always say the program is very malleable, because so when electrification becomes feasible, that's one thing we'll be bringing that to y'all's attention. Hey, we recommend these vehicles have the financial feasibility to become electrified. I would say it's really early phase. Y'all actually do have some vehicles in operation today that could potentially align with electrification today. It's be a shift in the way y'all operate in your thought process for sure, but it is something that is potentially feasible in very specific applications. Could you make it widespread? Do I even think it's going to be happening in by 2030? No, I don't. I mean, quite frank with you, I
I'll
don't.
call Elon and ask him to put a
Yeah.
station out there.
Elon, he'll get right on it.
Be sure and get the sheriff to set jumper cables.
Yeah, sure. I think we're doing like bird scooters for them going forward, something like that.
I just want that electric bulldozer. That's all.
Well, you know, there is just a couple of items that
Yeah.
our big truck group has told us to, you know, one way to circumvent what we're facing in 2025 with these emission standards elevating themselves 100% from where we're at today, and we're in scrutiny today.
I'm sure.
And we're going to a new level in 25, but they did recommend that we need to consider looking at what our options would be to become more electric, because they're talking about, and I'm talking big truck scenario, but they're talking by 2025, the beginning of 2025, it taking us over 30 months, in some cases 3 years, to receive an order for a truck.
That's correct.
And so it's got to affect any of these diesel units that are in here to some extent, because they're going to be the same scrutiny. Now, it won't be so much on the sheriff's fleet as bad with gasoline vehicles, but what happens when we're at a fully invested, we run up against this 27, 28, and we realize that 2030, there's some crazy mandate that takes the value away from gasoline powered vehicles, because by 2030, 2032, you're not allowed to operate one, or that you're only operating one if
Yeah.
it meets certain criteria.
So I mean,
What's our protection? I guess I'm saying.
well, I'll say this. First of all, foremost, it'll never be a Band-Aid off situation where it's going to naturally ease in anyway. We're investing a lot of resources into electrification on our company side of things, staying ahead of that so that we can get ahead of things as they occur. You understand, we're a multi-billion-dollar privately held business that has a lot of money invested in vehicle resale being a really key part of our business. So I always like to tell everybody that most of our profitability of rental car brand comes from selling rental cars. So we're going to be well ahead of that curve if that ever is the case. However, the ability, what's going to happen is more the ability to sell, not the ability to acquire non-electric vehicles is really what's going to change. It's not the ability to operate one. There's not going to be a demand, to our knowledge.
Well, so we have financial advisors that are work as a contractor to the county and advise us, and we get a financial newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
And in this month's newsletter, there was a specific paragraph stating the fact that the federal government had loaned to Ford Motor Company $9.2 billion for 3 battery factories that were going in Kentucky, Alabama, and Georgia. But that's a drop in the bucket compared to the investment in the country right now of $200 billion for electrical vehicle manufacturing. All in the essence of Ford apparently last year sold 132,000 electrical vehicles. They intend to, by 25, have sold 2 million vehicles.
Okay.
So I think the shift is occurring. I mean, it is happening right
Yeah.
now. The statement went on to say that not in the creation of the motor car industry. So when motor cars became a Detroit blown up with building motors and engines, this amount of money has never been invested before in this country for the creation of motor vehicles.
But if you
So
read further, they lost $6,000 on every one that sold.
Yeah, they did. That's true. Here's what's going on right now. You have the small light duty space is getting a lot of investment. Now the core some of the vehicles, your 3/4 tons, 1 tons, that sort of thing. There's not really anything on the horizon for that space that has been addressed necessarily. So where your opportunities are for electrification is really going to be on more your lighter duty, your half-ton trucks and things of that nature. There's some pursuit vehicle options out there for electrification. It's really the infancy stage of that. We do have quite a few in operation across the country today, but there's a lot of consideration points until, I think, battery technology is the biggest, hurdle that's going on right now, especially in that, because you got computers running, lights running. What's the battery drain on that? Not just the range anxiety associated with those. I can tell you that we are in a active investment and, analysis around this space. I mean, it's a topic of conversation for us each and every month when we have our company-wide, strategy sessions, and we're going to bring that to the table where it's feasible for the county to do so.
And an administration change could change the whole.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And Commissioner, to your concern, which I think is absolutely valid, what's our protection in that?
Yeah.
If we're not with enterprise, we are in the same boat. We still have a fleet of equity built in that if we could no longer use if that came up. Actually, it's one of the things that I think is a plus in y'all's column is you're probably, because you've got so much more money invested in it as a whole, going to be looking at that horizon with a little bit better of a crystal ball than maybe we have. Or I'll speak for myself, than I have.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, if something does happen where we need to make a change really rapidly, the county would be hard pressed in its current situation. If you had to go cycle out, 50, 60, 70 vehicles right away, while we could do that under our program very easily, y'all would be very hard pressed to do it unto yourself as in the current funding strategies that y'all have, and really replacement strategies that y'all have today.
I don't think you can access them. That's the big
No.
deal.
I mean, access it's an issue today. I mean, those manufacturers can sell a lot more electric vehicles if they can build them, and they're having a harder time building internal combustion engine vehicles, not to mention the electrification aspect of it. It's a real production challenge going on right now across the industry wide. That's why proactiveness is vital to the success of a fleet program. I mean, not waiting until we have issues, getting ahead of it from a replacement strategy standpoint.
I have another question. You brought up some things here on the 11% savings on fuel, 50% savings on maintenance. Have you brought any of those down showing, have you ever received anything from the county showing what our fuel is, what our maintenance is, how much we're spending a year, what we're spending a year on vehicles?
Your depth of data isn't quite there, so what I use is I took some statewide averages that we have from there, and really I backed them down by about 30% to be err more to the conservative side. That's why when I mentioned typically we see 65 to 80% reduction in maintenance repair costs, I back that down even more in relation to what I think your current total expense is, because it doesn't seem that, which is no fault of y'all. It's really common that a lot of government entities don't have a lot of depth of data around where the money is being spent on a vehicle by vehicle basis. So what we have to do is we have to look at more industry related knowledge that we have in order to do so.
And part of what y'all do is
Data
be
collection.
providing that.
Data collection. That's going to be a big piece of what we're doing is, I mean, even though y'all talked about something earlier, it's kind of, thought it was interesting about, EFTs and check payments, things of that nature. On average, it costs around $7 to process an invoice, believe it or not. That's statewide average. From the time you receive it, audit, get it entered into a general ledger, get a check cut, all that. We're going to eliminate that because Enterprise is going to be auditing every single invoice that comes in for every single, repair-related item that's going on to a vehicle. So all that information would come through us. We're going to collect it so we can submit a single invoice or, and itemize it by department, obviously, to the county. Because, at the end of the day, we're an analytics company. Our job is to analyze the data that's at hand in order to provide good, solid, forward-looking advice.
So
to the
what
county.
does that flow occur, Nick? So the sheriff has a unit go down. He takes it to the shop, and the shop repairs the motor, but also has to send it over to the body shop because the back fender was bent.
Yeah.
Who's paying that invoice?
So those are two related. So if it's a accident-related incident, you're gonna actually deal with that the same way. We're not necessarily touching your insurance-related claims just yet. Now, if it's a mechanical-related repair, then what's gonna happen is that the vehicle's going to the shop. The shop's going to, submit to us the invoice for it, the cost of labor, cost of parts, make sure everything looks on the up and up related to what's going on with that. And then, depending on the value of that, the cost of that repair, we set thresholds. Usually, anything above, $200 but below, call it $1,500, we'll auto approve on the county's behalf. Anything that's a larger dollar repair above that $1,500 mark, we're going to go to each individual department head and say, hey, here's what's going on with this vehicle. Here's the repair related to. We either recommend or don't recommend that repair being done, and then y'all make that decision. And at that point, we approve and we pay the shop directly. Usually, we pay most everything electronically nowadays. Most of the shops in the area are part of our preferred vendor program anyway.
And then we're paying you
Correct.
for that invoice.
Yeah, not on it, but we consolidate it all, and so the county can submit a single payment or multiples. So it just depends. We do EFT everything because that's how we prefer. At least we can do checks, but we prefer EFT. So yes, sir.
Question. If we exercise that list, and I get it, I understand we've got equities and we're gonna be selling and we're gonna do that, and then we've got operational costs. And I'm really not so much interested in operational costs other than if we, what kind of check are we gonna have to write in 2024 to exercise if we can even find those vehicles?
Yeah, so you're gonna.
I'm not finding that number anywhere.
So, yeah, so if you look at the cash flow right here, sorry, I'm gonna walk over here.
Okay.
Over here. So I'm rejecting around just under $500,000.
Yeah, I've got it right here.
Yeah. Lease payments, I'm expecting $560,000 in equipment cost
Okay.
on those vehicles, but you really cannot not consider the equity, because that's really what.
Over 900,000 is gonna, as we get them, I understand all this process has to go on.
Yeah.
But on
So
the,
it's showing this total acquisition expense at 45,000, is that the number?
That's what we're projecting, yeah.
And then you owe X number of dollars
But-
every year, of course, on that deal.
but tell me about the lease payment. So the 448,000, that bought the replacement of the list Barry's just talking about, or made the 1-year payment for that?
That's 6 months of payments. Because
6 months.
because we're buying 73 vehicles,
Right.
we're spending millions of dollars to buy those vehicles, not just 900,000. There's a lot of capital being allocated. The first year's payments, I'm expecting I'm just around to $500,000 in finance payments in the first year. In year 2, I'm expected to be $950,000. Year 3,
But on that half a year's payment, does that balance pay off by the end of that year? So is there residual payments left that carry over to 24 and new
Correct.
payments come into play?
yeah,
Yes.
correct. Yeah, so you see this, see the sort of climb here. So it really takes us about 4 or 5 years to get everything replaced. And then everything will be under a finance payment of some sort, everything that we're making operation. So we'll eventually get the.
Yeah, I see it begins to pick back up when you get into 28,
Correct.
the numbers.
And then it sort of stabilizes from there. Then as you see here, like in 27, we have $800,000 in equity coming back again. That's where we're selling a lot of vehicles in that year. And then you see it come up again at 32. That's based on this and that.
So what we, and this gets back to what I'm talking about, what we've got to look at, once again, back to that cash flow deal. In 2028, we need to be prepared to write a check for $1.6 million. That's what I'm seeing on here.
Correct.
And then in 29, $1.30 million, $1 million bucks,
Yep.
give or take. And it looks like it kind of levels out there, going across into 31. I mean, that's the number that, that I look at, and I understand that's not taking care of maintenance and fuel, that's another line down here.
Correct.
Which also kind of levels off, but, I'm always interested in what kind of check are we gonna have to write, because we gotta be able to cover that. Or
Well, and-
last time I looked,
Oh,
we did.
sorry, Commissioner Beecham.
No, it's about $1 million a year.
It's about
Yeah.
a million a year, but also remember, we have not budgeted for this year, so if you go forward, you're also gonna have to allot money out of contingencies in 23, because we are a calendar year, so.
Yeah, I don't. let's see
And
where we're at
fuel and
now.
maintenance should be comparable to what we budget,
Correct.
I would assume.
But if he pulled the trigger today, he couldn't get a car here by,
I doubt we're gonna have anything done by this fiscal, and the handful that may or may not actually land, we're talking maybe like a month of payments or something like that, and so then we would have, we'd have equity from that, the vehicles being sold that pretty much offset, so
We
that
can't
that
have one
would.
by Friday, is what you're saying.
And I could get you one,
One.
and then that bird scooter, we'll have to rent it though.
so Nick,
Yeah.
what we're used to today
Yep.
on a buying cooperative agreement. So when we reach out to Ford Motor Company,
Yep.
Ford Motor Company has a price across this country that a government entity can buy a pickup that looks like this.
Yeah, kind of.
Can you beat that price?
No, we buy it at the same price.
How do you buy at the same price as a commercial corporation compared to us?
Because it really matters who the end user is, and the county being the end user, we piggyback off your government status in order to go out and acquire that vehicle. Each manufacturer is different, because we're going to recommend, for instance, Chevy, GM, they have a statewide price on trucks. Actually, Ford does not. Ford's based on the volume of the individual county and the size of the actual government entity itself. And even you'll see variation among the buying cooperatives as well, as far as what that is.
So
And-
I'm hearing to be understand, I'm hearing you say that if I personally went into an agreement with you, I would pay more for it than what one you would access for the county.
Say it one more time.
Could you buy, you could buy something for the county at a governmental discount, but you would have to, if I did it personally, then that.
For Moeller Farms?
Yeah, that would cost more money.
Oh yeah, for sure. I
Okay,
mean, because
that's what
as
I-
a commercial as a commercial
your
buyer
question,
or a retail
yeah,
buyer,
yeah.
you're definitely paying more
Right.
as a retail buyer versus the government entity. And how we acquire most of the vehicles, we acquire them directly through the factory. We actually try, unless for some reason you don't want us, we will order it direct from Ford corporate for all intents and purposes at the government channels there, which is where we get the lowest
I
cost
can
of
buy,
acquisition.
same thing, Caterpillar equipment, I can buy a front end loader for the county X number %
Right.
cheaper than I can buy one.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Absolutely.
Same program.
But
Yeah,
he-
it has
he the
narrowed a little
benefit of
Yeah, yeah,
resale.
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
His benefit is more resale because his market is larger, so he should be able to
Sure.
resell our
Well, they've
vehicles
got
at a higher
buying power,
cost
you
than
know.
we could do it.
Yeah, and I think it's not just the ability to resell at a higher cost. That's really is a big.
And I guess
Yeah,
what point Jeff, not
And
to
we
put
don't
words
have
in
to
your
hire
mouth,
a
I guess
fleet
you're
manager.
asking, are we gonna give that up?
Yeah, I didn't want to
I
lose
guess
any
we're not.
standing.
No, we're not.
What's the typical term for the open-ended leases?
They're gonna be each one's 4 to 5 years typically is what we set them up on.
So, to Commissioner Mahler's point, you're staring at 28 large check. Heaven forbid we have a terrible year, budget
Yep.
needs are come up. We've already got all that equity built in.
Yep.
So we can push it, it's gonna affect all of your other calculations on this, but again, we've got the escape valve of, we haven't lost anything over what we have done now, because we're 5 years away, all those vehicles, we've got the equity built in.
Correct.
We just keep them and roll them an extra year or two.
Yeah,
The only thing that's going to be different now is that the interest rate that we're gonna pay on this money is affected by the market today compared to 2 years ago.
Correct. Yeah. So I mean, the county the cost of funds is based on when the vehicle actually delivers. You know, and cost of funds are a little higher.
But if
higher
it
out
was
now.
today and I had to acquire a fleet that you put together for me for $1 million, that interest rate's gonna be what?
It's somewhere in the sevens, where it's a 3-year T-bills plus 350 basis points.
So that locks in.
Yeah.
And that's
At the time,
Enterprise's number.
That's our cost of funds. Yeah, that's what our internal cost of funds.
I would be curious to know, say, over the last 5 years, what Wichita County has spent for vehicles. per year.
I can tell you what your average your average,
That's an important number.
I can tell you your average annual acquisition number. It's hard to look historically because we bought a vehicle 3 years ago. It's very, very different than it is today.
Sure.
But your trend is somewhere around about 12 vehicles a year, give or take,
Okay.
to maintain your current average age somewhere in there. And based off all my conversations, you're going to spend around $700,000 acquiring those vehicles between outfitting and
Yeah.
all,
And I know
all
it
the
varies.
above.
It varies, you
Yeah.
know.
And yeah, some years you spend a lot more, some years you spend a lot less.
I'm trying to compare cash flows again. You know,
Yeah, so
what are
you-
we spending now as opposed to what that bill?
So that's what this
2018.
is supposed to represent here.
Okay,
So on average, you would spend about 1.4
okay.
overall on your fleet.
That's
County-wide.
maintenance, fuel and everything.
Everything, which is really important. That's where we would look at total cost of ownership, right?
Yeah.
Which is all the costs considered. And so in the first year, first 12 months of operation, I'm expecting to spend just under $1 million. So that's about $1,000 cost difference. We're gonna spend a little bit more, and you see in year 3 where we spent $50,000 less in year 2, spend a little bit more in year 3, and then it drops down again. And you can kind of see in year 5 there, because we have the vehicles we acquired in year 1, are a lot of them are come for sale. We're realizing the equity in year 5 and year 4. So I know it sounds complicated, but that's just how the cash flow is going to work. And so-
28's the big hit, isn't it?
Yeah, you have a larger one there, but we have, what I always look at is the savings balance over here. Really, I think y'all should budget, which you historically, if you historically budgeted, you will actually you'll be building a fund.
Well, and that's important, but back to what I say, one of the most important things we gotta look at is what check we gotta write. You know, because that's, and we gotta do that every year, so.
So you're,
The savings, that's an important number, but I'm still interested in, you know, at the end of the year. So really and truly, we're not that much, this deal is not costing us that much more from the amount of check we've got to write is what we're spending now.
No, I'm projecting $1 million of cost reduction over the next 10
I mean,
years.
there is, yeah, but we got a new fleet of vehicles. Well, our maintenance costs ought to go down.
Yes.
You replace all those vehicles
Yeah.
because Will has to change an engine out every once in a while.
Yeah, I'm pretty conservatively expecting a 50% reduction in maintenance and repair cost.
Yeah.
Extremely conservative.
But we'll also save on some of our insurance because we won't be insuring vehicles that
Oh, yeah.
are just sitting somewhere that are not being used.
Yeah, because
And that's what we're trying to do in our precinct right now, is not do what we've always done, but do what we need to do to go do our work. And I think we're gonna be able to make some adjustments
Correct.
that are gonna move us ahead.
This is the way we've always done it, is usually
We don't need
wrong.
5 of one thing when we only use 3. And that's what we're working on right now to try to really come up with a real number.
Do you
We're
know
gonna
what-
do this, let's do it right.
do you know what the average cost of insurance is today, I wonder, per vehicle? Because we're talking about reducing by,
Well,
30 somewhat
and-
vehicles.
And ours is really not a true insurance, we're a risk.
Yeah, I
pool.
It's a
understand.
risk
I understand.
pool.
But y'all pay into the pool.
We do
We
pay
pay
into the pool.
and those, we have a very high deductible on our vehicles today, so, it's not a true insurance picture is what you would think about
Oh,
paying
yeah.
Allstate.
Very, very well, but y'all do pay into the pool, a certain dollar amount per vehicle that y'all have
Yeah.
entered into the pool, a couple $1,000 probably per vehicle at least.
Roughly.
Yeah.
It just depends on the vehicle. Like
Yeah.
Can't see it
some
in my
obviously,
mind.
yeah,
Yeah,
some
it's
cost
just-
more than others.
But I think even at, say, $2,000 being the number between liability and physical damage,
Was that just
you
a
reduce
normal
talking about $70,000 a year plus in reduction in insurance, and over 10 years, that's another
By
70.
missing vehicles, but also by having new vehicles, I drive my cost up. So if I'm paying off the value of that vehicle.
Yeah.
So if my value's depreciated itself down and I have a 6-year-old vehicle, I'm not paying near as much as what I'm fixing to pay for a brand spanking new.
That-
vehicle.
I think most of your costs is related to it's gonna be your liability, the liability pay in is where most of the cost, because it doesn't really matter how old the vehicle is from a liability standpoint. That's the physical damage coverage portion that you're referring
Your
to.
comp will be higher, but
The
you-
comp,
Yeah, it's by the wash.
yeah.
What would the payment to Enterprise, because that's a brand new cost,
Yeah.
what would that be?
So for the first 12 months of of operation. We're expecting, again, $900,000 in lease cost. And then we're expecting, $560,000 in outfitting costs. So those, because we're gonna be invoicing for those
Right.
things.
I mean, what's
The sheer cost.
What's
of
the cost
enterprise.
just to enterprise for this service? I think it's a percentage.
Oh,
per
the
vehicle.
the actual.
Because that's an actual. Because we're gonna have to maintain a fleet and buy a fleet. Period.
Right.
Yeah,
This is the new cost to us for what enterprise is doing.
Yeah, it's 0.1% of the capitalized cost of the vehicle. I can get you the exact number, what I projected. Memento, something else. Let's see. Gotta download it. But it's a 0.1% of the capitalized cost of the vehicle on a monthly basis. So if I go buy a $50,000 vehicle, y'all are paying me $50 a month to manage that vehicle, and that's included in the projected cost as well. Sorry, it's downloading.
So $50 a month at 132 vehicles. That's your cost.
Yeah.
That's what,
Times 12.
times 12. And that would be strictly enterprise managing and doing the analytics and everything.
Yeah, so let's round it, probably call it $60,000-$70,000 a year in actual our management fees.
Which is
Give or take.
probably less than what it would cost to hire a fleet manager to oversee our fleet.
I can definitely tell you the average cost of a fleet manager to manage a fleet this size is somewhere around $150,000 a year
Before
With-
benefits.
before benefits.
Side of Wichita County. But, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that's the state average. I don't necessarily know specific to Wichita.
That's including, because I think last time you talked, there's the fleet management aspect, which is buying and selling vehicles.
Correct.
Then there was the maintenance part of it, and then there was the fuel part of it,
Yeah.
and then there was the tracking and data part of it.
Yeah.
So that 0.1% is all of those things included.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
at most, full package, that's the
Correct,
most
yeah.
expensive.
Yeah, and it ramps as we add more as we add vehicles. So the first year wouldn't be that much because we only have 73 of the 101 are originally gonna fund. We're actually going to be funding 101 vehicles in the projections I have here. There's 31 vehicles that are the quote unquote specialized ones that we may or may not ever even touch from a acquisition standpoint.
Truthfully, I think that $100,000 or a $70,000 fee maybe will make itself back in the overall savings long term.
That's
Because I hate to say this, we as a county don't manage our fleet very good at all, period. The records aren't good, the keeping up with maintenance is not good, it's not
I just think it's a really daunting task, quite frankly, for most entities.
well, there's too many people involved in it that don't care. If you're the company that's buying and selling the cars, your company cares to do it properly to
Well-
maximize the amount you're getting for it.
But the only thing is Nick's going to be able to show you is the handful of tickets that went to the mechanic shop. He's
Right.
still not gonna be able to answer in a year, how much fuel did we use in 2024? He can't tell us that number.
Not unless y'all, because right now y'all are using some tanks from somewhere. Don't y'all use?
Well,
in the city?
everybody's a little bit different in
Yeah.
application.
If we issue out fuel cards, which if y'all move away from that, we would be able to tell you that data if we're using a fuel card program, which most entities tend to use that. But if it doesn't work for you, that's okay too. There are some. We can, estimate it based off mileage driven, based off average. We can do some estimations on that. If we put telematics in the vehicles, then we can know really quick what we actually spent, number of gallons, that sort of thing. If we want to get that nitty gritty to it, it really depends on what the county wants to do there. That's not necessarily a decision for today, though.
And
as far as
Nick, have you shown an agreement to our county attorney on?
no, I haven't. So we have approved agreements through our the cooperative that y'all are gonna be piggybacking off of through tips, approved agreements there, but I'll send all those out. Once approved, I send those out, get the county attorney to, you know, do what they do. If they wanna make changes, that's okay. And once they, basically say, okay, we're good with the agreement as stands, that's when it goes to judge.
And that's when I'll bring it back before the court for one final look to approve my signature. So the decisions that the court needs to make, whether it's today or is, if we're going to do this, and then if the answer to that is yes, are we gonna do it for the whole fleet? Are we gonna pick out a few separate departments and try it out on a limited basis? When is it gonna take effect? And then are we gonna do the full telematics, maintenance, fuel, all there, some portions or whatever?
Correct, yeah, so really decisions for today is one, are we gonna move forward with this? Yeah, two, that's the primary decision, and once that's a yes, then I'll send out all the agreements to the city attorney and CC whoever needs to be CC'd on that for them to get, if they would need to red line, they'll send that back to me. And then, once that happens, then I send to you, there should be a DocuSign to actually approve, to sign off and approve the agreement. So if you need to have that on one of your Monday meetings as an agenda, that's okay. I won't necessarily need to
So
come from.
we would not be approving the finalized list or cost
Not
today.
No.
What's the difference in cost of that other, add-on, the telematics?
Telematics, it's about $18 per vehicle per month to add on.
The percentage in, so it's not a 1.1%, it's a.
No, it's actually, because that's actually the cost of the cell service, because we have to buy cell service in order to, because the little units that plug into the vehicles.
Like the bi-fleet stuff we have on
Yeah.
the county.
Excuse me?
It's the, like the bi-fleet that we have
Right.
agreement with.
Yeah, so we have to pay for cell service, whether through AT&T or Verizon or whoever it is. We have to pay for cell service, so that's actually the cost of the cell.
It's probably a third of the cost of what we'd be paying more.
Yeah. So you're talking about 18 vehicles. We put on all 132, so I can
28.
101.
101.
Yeah, well, but you could also put on the other ones too, because I don't think you put on 101. You might as well put on everything to get, because we want, so you get data capture from everything.
Okay.
Because we'll provide management services even for the other ones if you want to. On the 31 other specialized vehicles, if you're going to do it on 101, you might as well have devices on all 132, so you get data capture on everything. For that matter.
Will, what do we pay for your service today on
Like $17.95 or $16.95
per unit? And is that a function of the phone company? How is the phone company involved in your application?
We went through US Cellular to purchase it, but we actually, I think, make the payment, or they're supplied by my fleet, but I think we make the payment to US Cellular.
Or we attempt to,
Attempt to.
because they still are not billing us correctly per the contract signed, so.
We're getting free service.
So even if we switch to him,
That's,
we could lose the one that you have now.
We had a 3-year contract on there, but we're pretty well close to the end of the first year.
So there may be a buyout fee though that
Yeah,
may not cost the full amount,
Yeah.
we would have to.
I think we'd want to bring that back for a future discussion. I'm just figure out what the buyout might be on that. And then sometimes Geotab's the platform that we use. Sometimes they will participate in that to some degree, just depending on what it is, or to acquire the service. And so we have a 1-year agreement through Verizon or whoever it is. So once the devices are in, we're only beholden to them for a year.
We don't have to buy the device.
No. Not under our. We have a cooperative agreement through Sourcewell, so that we don't have to buy the device.
So you need a motion.
I don't like the wording of this motion here. I would like to amend that motion.
well, hold
I
on,
certainly don't.
we are still on number 2, which is receive the presentation. If we think we're done with the presentation, then we can move on to number 3 and discuss the actual motion. So do we have any other questions or comments on item 2, which is receive presentation of the county's fleet synopsis? Do we have any public comment on that item? Okay, then let's move along to item number 3 in general business, which is consider and/or take action to join the enterprise fleet management program to manage, maintain, and develop Wichita County's vehicle fleet. Go ahead, Commissioner Watts.
I certainly don't mind us to move forward, for Nick to mail some stuff, for Cheryl to break down her portion of this agreement and get her cost analysis rigged up as well. I don't mind to move into that phase, but I don't think that we're actually to the point that we want to say, hey, let's do this immediately and move forward with it. I'd just like to do more of our own homework here from all of our experts.
Just make the motion to direct our civil attorney to review the contracts and for us to continue to review the vehicle list before moving forward.
So, just a quick question. Outside of y'all reviewing y'all's list, y'all good as a list as reviewed by the sheriff's department already?
If they've reviewed their list and they're good with it, then, but the remaining part of the list, I don't think we've had adequate time to go through.
And we can, piecemeal this in, I guess you'd say. Probably it'll naturally happen anyway.
I know it would be easier for you dealing with each department, each commissioner,
Yeah.
if you were to send each commissioner their vehicles.
Yeah, I can.
So the way it's set up, you got part of our commissioner vehicles up here in one section, another part in another one. But I'm just saying it would probably be easier and faster to get it through.
Yeah, I'll break it down on a commissioner by commissioner basis, send it to y'all directly, and then y'all can just correspond back with me with changes or amendments or whatever it is.
Dave, Will Patrick's commented,
We sat with him 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
For pretty much in one afternoon. We went through everything.
Yeah, we went, I would say pretty good detail. I think the biggest thing for the sheriff was understanding how many vehicles we need in each application type, like how many patrol vehicles, how many, captains, so on and so forth vehicles. And that was really that. And after doing that, that's where we discovered, okay, these are vehicles that we can probably downsize post that conversation, because we will have, right-sized the fleet pretty rapidly.
because you're really and truly what happens today is the utility vehicles that are used in the operation are just hand-me-downs from the patrol side of things, and we don't have, it's just because that's the way it works. And this would let us change that concept up completely, I guess.
And of course, my comment would be we are in the middle of July, moving forward with the budget session, and we are asking for vehicles in the budget one way or the other.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, y'all were already, the ask was, I think, $900,000
It was,
for new vehicles purchased for next year.
And that's in one department.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
one-
I
the
think
big
they
one,
had,
but
10 vehicles for
Yeah.
those, roughly?
because that included the vehicles and the aftermarket, I think.
Yeah, I think it was
So
like
I
that.
think if we're gonna move forward with this, we need to move forward with it at some speed and not,
Yeah,
it don't need to be a personnel policy or anything.
no,
Yeah.
we need to have it in place before the new budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say the only time crunches we're up against is really ordering windows right now. PD vehicles are like, we actually should have ordered those yesterday type thing.
Yeah.
It's just because their timelines and orderings is opening up this month, and so we need to get the orders placed pretty much this month, or else we're at the mercy of having to piecemeal through a bunch of different state contract dealers. It's not the most cost effective way to go about it.
The portals would open real quick.
Yeah.
When we were talking about, we'd order.
Half-ton trucks are open right now, so we need half-ton trucks. We need to get those things ordered. 3/4-ton trucks are opening beginning of next month, so we do need to get in fairly quick succession all this stuff.
Do we have some vehicles that are on order that have not arrived yet from?
We have 2 Tahoes that are in the process of being outfitted, but we still don't have a date.
I haven't paid for them yet, though, have you?
No, they've not been
No,
paid.
we don't pay for it till they
Okay.
come in.
Yeah, and so we can actually, those two, we can actually pay for them on y'all's behalf, so we basically just jump in there and then we'd PO and invoice, and once approved.
Not only only do this, I don't even know that a motion is gonna be necessary if we're not ready to actually sign off on anything. Why don't we, to what you were saying, Commissioner Beecham, if you could send out what the actual agreement language that y'all already done would look like, send it to civil attorney, send it so that we can all see it, y'all can have your one-on-one meeting, and then either a week from now or 2 weeks from now,
So,
put it on the agenda to actually approve the agreement,
Okay,
approve a list, and
so I amend my motion, a motion to table pending further review, a motion to table for 2 weeks pending further review.
2 weeks would be.
Yeah.
Sure. Hold on.
I mean, I don't know that we need 2 weeks. All we're doing is approving all our vehicles.
well, I mean, we can put it on again next week, and then if they were not ready, push it again.
So, next week, I can be here. I probably won't be able to be here till like noon, by the way. Just so you
Well,
know.
and I don't know that.
I land from a flight like
I think
8
I
that-
don't think you need to be here.
I think that part of the reason we can ask questions.
Yeah.
That might come up, or put all those together, put them in an email to you.
Yeah,
We
for sure.
can-
Yeah.
We can,
Maybe get those questions answered before next Monday.
Yeah, if y'all are
right.
I can definitely attend virtually at 10 a.m. by the way, if needed.
I don't think,
That's-
I don't think we need you for the full
Okay.
presentation
Okay.
again. I think it would just be
Good deal.
one-off questions.
Good deal. Yeah, as quick as attorney reviews everything. I mean, takes me usually about 48 hours to get red lines back on our side of things, if there are any. What I usually submit to y'all is I'm going to give you the actual typical red lines, which are part of our cooperative agreement that are usually the changes that are made to it. One's being venue, Texas from Missouri, which is where we're headquartered at. A lot of it's venue change stuff, some non-boycott information in there, all the checking the boxes stuff related to that, and a few other changes that are typically made, and usually that suffices 99% of the things needed.
I'll amend my motion then to next week.
But I'll get the list sent out.
Okay.
I need to make sure I know. There's a few random departments in there. I need to know who I need to send that stuff to, though.
Ty Davis needs to be on your list for the district attorney and their fleet. He's in charge of that, Nick.
Yeah, send me an email with who's responsible for each
Yeah,
one.
I think
that'd be very easy.
Yeah, let us do
Rather than me
that.
trying to write it all down right here.
That'd be great.
Might be a little challenging for me.
So we've got the motion to table from Commissioner Beecham. We don't even need a second on the motion to table, do we, Mel?
No,
I think we do.
no.
Okay. All right, does anyone object to the motion to table?
No.
Okay. Any other comments on this item? Okay.
All right. A lot of conversation over the next few days, I'm sure. So,
Yeah, thank you very
thank y'all
much.
so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Nick.
Thank you.
All right, item number 4, discuss, consider, and/or take action to approve a storage building for the LEC and assign a project number for a cost of $306,281.25 to be paid from LEC bond funds with any shortages funded from lines determined by the county auditor.
Yeah, that's not going to be enough. It's gonna be about $60,000 short.
Well, before we even get into that, I don't know about the rest of the commissioners, I had a little bit of sticker shock when I saw that
Agreed.
amount on the storage building, especially, we had a previous conversation where I think we were looking at 80 to 120. So I guess do we want Glenda to speak? Do we want Chief
I
to
think I'm gonna
speak?
speak first, and then
Okay.
Brenda's gonna kind of tag along with that. So, first of all, it's not a storage building per se, it's a workshop and a covered parking area. Since we started building the LEC, one of the things that the sheriff had wanted and had talked about was a place for our trustees to work. So this is actually gonna be a trustee workshop inside the fenced-in area of the parking lot on the west fence, running north to south. It's a workshop that's a 30 by 40 building with a 30 by 50 covered parking area where we can park our trustee vehicles, our trustee equipment, our trailer with the mowers and everything, get it out of the weather. And so the building itself is 30 by 40. You'll have an office in there. I reached out, when I first started this, reached out to a individual. Actually, I reached out to Mel's office to find out what we could use for DCIF funds, because it's over $50,000. And our proposal is to fund the building out of DCIF money. And then we asked the court to fund the plumbing and electrical, get that stuff to the building out of LEC money. The original bid that came in for the building was at $78,000 for all the metal, the concrete work that has to be done. Then that's when we reached out to Harper Perkins to start getting some prices for getting the plumbing and the electrical to there. And Glenda can explain how she got the prices she got or she received. I know those prices are high, but I also know most of those are not all are true. Like the concrete footage, concrete slab, the first two, that was part of my guy's bid for the $78,000. He was going to do the plumbing, and I'm sorry, he was going to do all the concrete work in that price. So the bathroom and the office stuff for the inside there would be framed out by trustees and built by trustees. So a lot of this work that's on this bid, it's actually going to be work done by the trustees. It won't be billed to somebody else. Our thing is we're going to use DCIF money to get the building up right. Use trustees to do what we need to do on the inside, but we're going to have plumbing and electrical out there. So when we do this, we'll be able to move all our trustees' equipment from the 4th floor out there. We have a workshop at the old jail. Move all their stuff over there, all in one location inside the fenced-in area where it's secure.
So what's the total cost to the bond?
Pardon?
What's the total cost to the bond?
Bond.
To the LEC bond funds?
What you're asking?
Oh,
Yeah, what
I was thinking it was going to be around 20 to 35,000, but I don't know for a fact. We haven't gone out to bid per se. I guess Glenda needs to explain how she
The
goes.
math's not adding up here.
Yeah, these
Well,
numbers
the
are.
problem is, when I estimate something, I have to estimate it on standard contractor type of terms. I can't estimate what it's gonna cost the inmates to do a project.
Mhm.
I don't have information like that. So what our estimate has done is if we were to have a standard contractor, it goes out standard bids and that sort of thing, that's what it would cost. Anything less is all the better. But I have to do it based on standard costs. And so if the, and the tricky part comes is where things have to be bid and what doesn't have to be bid. If it's done through the commissary type stuff, that does not have to be bid. If it's done through LEC funds, then it has to be bid. And so if we have to bid it, then we are using my numbers. If we don't have to bid it, then we can use Will's numbers.
Right.
So it's not an easy answer, but I would say that the plumbing rough-in, the mechanical, and the electrical, those three items right there, which is the electrical in itself, and these are estimates, mind you, estimates, guesstimates, because I've not engaged an electrical engineer to come and see exactly where we'll get the power from, whether we'll pull it off of the firing range area and pull it over there. We're gonna have to have a whole new service and everything else. So, right, so the 54 is above the $50,000 limits that can be done under quotes. And so that one in itself, unless we do something different, but I need to engage an electrical engineer to make sure where we're at with that. The $20,000 for the, or $24,000 for the mechanical, and the $2,000 for plumbing, those are under bid amounts, those are quote amounts, those can be done. But those are the three items really that are being looked at from the LEC funds. Does that make sense? But right now, I can't tell you that it'll be under $50,000 for that electrical, because I don't know how we're gonna get power there yet.
I've got to ask this question. If this is something that you started out with and you're going to have a general contractor build this building, why do we have to have an architectural firm at all hired at this point to do anything?
Does it fall,
That's state regs.
That's what that's why I'm asking, what are the state regs on that?
Well, I could get them for you, I don't have them memorized, but in the state of Texas, if you spend over a certain amount on a public entity project, you will use a licensed architect.
And what is that
engineers.
amount, do you know?
It's like $50,000,
Yeah.
it's not.
It's not a very big number, really.
I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, no. and-
Because there's a
and
lot of
because
general
there's-
contractors that you can
There's
have
life
build a building.
safety involved, and there's a very different difference between commercial and residential, and even commercial that is not public entity. That, you put the county involved in any of it, and that changes it, it knocks it up.
So what we are, I may be wrong, so that's why I asked the question. What we're actually talking about from the standpoint of the court needing to approve and assign a project number and a cost. Based on this, we're looking at about 80, then with the architectural engineering fees and contingency. Am I understanding that right? They go and do their own thing on the building.
Well, I don't think we
No,
can though,
they
Kim.
can't do their own thing on the
That
building.
we're gonna have to plumb in the water and plumb in the electrical before the slab's poured for the building.
Yeah.
And so that would throw them in conjunction.
basically go out for bids for the plumbing and electrical, see what it's gonna cost, if it's feasible to get it there, it's feasible to do. And then we move forward from there.
Yeah. We wouldn't have a problem with that, doing, and letting us pull all that over, and your contractor then, he, in
No,
conjunction
once
with.
that stuff's stubbed up through the ground, he's gonna come in and pour the concrete and put the building up.
Where did we come up with the 306,000? Okay.
Is this, that was if she
Oh, I
went
had-
through.
I had some.
Oh, okay,
Anyway,
okay.
You want a copy of that?
No, I
Okay.
can look at it, I can look at it.
What did we decide about the restrooms, or?
It'd just be a single stall restroom and then like a 10 by 10 or 12 by 12 office that'd be framed out for we could put a computer in there.
And those are separate numbers that I went ahead and added. And y'all have gotten on to me in the past of not putting all the numbers.
Yes.
So man, I put all the numbers in
And
there.
is that restroom would be plumbed into our new section of sewer that's out there for the LEC
It's actually across the street, but yeah, and then that's sort of one
on
of the.
industrial, or the Stanley Proto Road?
Production.
Erosion
Back there.
Production.
Yeah.
So-
Would it tie back into the gun range and go then just tie in there?
Possibly,
Yeah.
if the depths are available.
I don't feel comfortable approving project at that, up to that
No.
cost.
And I'm not asking for that cost.
Okay.
I mean, I like for us to move forward and see what the real costs are gonna be, knowing that majority of the costs are gonna be paid out of DCI. funds.
So move forward with,
Getting
The
Getting bids and
requesting
estimates for
of
this.
bids.
But
So
let's
you're
go and
wanting
plan.
So to sign a project number and,
And then gather some prices.
yeah, to hire the engineer, electrical engineer.
We'll have to have
And
mechanical and
architect, yeah.
electrical engineers, yes. And structural, because you can't, even though his guy says he's gonna put in the foundation,
Yeah,
we've got to have the foundation.
and had
designed.
structural, yeah.
can I ask a question?
Mhm.
If his general contractor orders a pre-manufactured building that comes engineered stamped
Mhm.
with a set of engineered slab plans with
They
it,
never do that.
well, I mean, I've got them before like that, but I'm just asking. So
Okay.
if he gets a structural, if he gets a
If he
slab
gets a
prints
structural
also.
engineer licensed in the state of Texas, it will stamp a foundation design. I'm A-okay with that. That covers y'all, that covers me, that covers everybody. But typically, a pre-engineered drawing only covers the metal building. It does not even cover the connection points from the columns down into the footings. That typically is not there. If he can find one that'll put it there, great. I mean,
Okay.
that way we don't have to hire a structural engineer. But that's typically not provided in those those engineered drawings. Pre-engineered metal building is only the metal building.
Okay.
And what they normally do then is find a third-party engineer that'll do the foundation. But that's what,
When you
y'all
take
can
this
do it instead of me, I don't care.
take this project just like we do all the others, we approve a project number and
Go
going
get our
to
info.
approve the engineer and the drawings to be done.
Because ultimately, the city is going to want a final set of drawings that has everything wrapped up in it, neat and nice. It'll have to be submitted for permit.
Glenn, from just a standpoint of how that's paid for and contracted out, because if y'all do all the work on a project that then the court goes, nope, not approving that. You've already done your drawings and your plans. But the way it's normally based is it's a percentage of the total project amount. How would y'all get paid for that?
We try to make it to the best for actually our clients, not necessarily us. We'll look at the number of hours that we've spent on it. Sometimes if we switch it back to an hourly job then and just pay you, bill you for the hours that we've spent on it. Sometimes we'll have to, finagle it one way or the other to see how it will work out. But we would be paid up through the percent or up through the point that the job ceases to be. So yeah, we do get paid for our services at that point. But how that is determined, whether it's hourly or whether it's percentages or guesstimates type of thing.
Because something like this, that almost seems like it might be a cleaner way of doing it than putting on a percentage when there's so many moving
Right.
parts.
And that could well be, and a lot of times if they're under a certain amount, under 500,000 or something like that anyway, we've already got that in our contract, that it's gonna be an
Okay.
hourly rate. But, we, so that I can have things lined.
Sure.
I'll put it in.
Okay.
And then, with the engineers, we just give you that, we bill you what they've billed us type of thing with the markups that are required for all of those things, so.
Okay.
I'm not trying to make it a more expensive job so that I can get a more
No,
expensive fee
I-
on it. That's not it at all, and I just know that in the past, y'all wanted every last detail taken care of, and so I tried to make sure that it was all covered.
And you did, thank you. So from the standpoint of then what we need to do today, we need to approve the workshop and covered parking area, assign a project number, and approve going out and getting prices and bid
Do the
information.
engineering, yeah.
And doing the engineering.
Yeah, that would be my motion.
I'm gonna let you say it again.
Motion to approve moving forward with the covered parking and workshop area and engaging Harper Perkins to provide the engineering and drawing services necessary, estimation.
I have a question. I thought Wheel was gonna move forward with getting some prices on that too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why? So
we still have to have a drawing. We have to have the
I'll work
drawing.
with her.
We'll
Get it.
No, it's not taking Will out at all. It's just we have it has to be built to a drawing.
Yeah.
Got a question. Does the drawing have to include like where workbenches would be built after with the building, because inmates are going to build the
No.
workbenches they need?
No, just the mechanics of the building.
Okay.
What
And
we
also-
do with it when we move in.
It's a whole different story.
Yeah.
The 10 by 10 office and the bathroom, the single bathroom will be built by inmate labor as well, everything.
The bathroom will have to be shown on the drawing,
Yeah.
and I don't even know if the office would have to be, Linda.
If there's
The
a-
office, necessarily. Yeah, well, you're gonna put electrical in it, yeah. You're
Yeah.
gonna have to show it,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Because also it's an egress door.
Yeah.
It would be
Yeah,
an
it
egress
has- it's
door
true.
through the,
So,
Yeah.
so Commissioner Beecham has made a motion to approve a workshop and building and covered parking area for the LEC, assign a project member, and engage Harper Perkins to provide engineering drawings.
And
Second.
for this to be paid for out of LEC bond funds at this point. 'Cause we had to pay for it some way. And then,
Change it.
we'll,
I think it's
The-
fair to,
the architectural engineering needs to come from LEC bond funds.
I think it's fair to say we're gonna run into a shortage problem on the drawings.
Yeah, should be 242,000 available.
Just trying to help spend it.
Which I don't mind.
All
Say
right,
by the end of the year.
Yes, thank you.
so let me say that again to make sure we're all on the same page. The motion is to approve a workshop, building, and covered parking area for the LEC, assign a project member, and engage Harper Perkins to provide engineering drawings to be paid from LEC bond funds. Okay. And Commissioner
Engineering
Watson,
drawing and estimates, final estimate.
Commissioner Watson, did I hear you say you seconded that motion?
I second it.
Okay. All right, do we have any other comment or questions on this item? All right, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Do you wanna do the consent number 3 while I'm up here?
Sure.
Okay.
Consent agenda item number 3, what it said, motion to authorize county judge to sign the interlocal cooperation agreement with Lubbock County for housing inmates. Do you want to give any type of presentation on this?
I just want to tell you that, a couple weeks ago when the discussion when the ARPA money come up, with a lack of it now, I asked Lisa, Captain Patterson, to reach out to Lubbock and Denton County, because I know they've reached out to us in the past wanting to see if they could house inmates. And our numbers have continually slowly gone down. We're at 459 this morning. I believe this time last year we were about 580. So we reached out to Lubbock first. Is that right?
Lubbock actually reached out to us.
Oh, okay, at the same time. So we looking at maybe housing 40 of their inmates. That would offset our monthly ARPA funds that we're spending for employees, plus a little bit on the positive side.
Do we have staff to cover it?
We could actually house that 40 without having to change our staffing numbers. Just blend them in to the pods that we have open.
Okay.
We have 3 closed pods right now.
What was the $62.57 per diem based on?
So you take, sorry, I took a picture of it because I can never remember it. So you take the entire jail budget for the year, divide it by.
$16.9 or $3 million.
Yep, and divide that by the jail's capacity, which is 718, and then divide that by 365. Gives you an average rate. If you want the day rate, then you do the
But
same
Lisa,
budget. Yes.
that would be only the day rate if you had 725.
Right. So when the state asks, and I kind of talked with Sergeant Malden about this because she's the one that does our average daily rates. They go over that amount because that's what's average for the entire thing. If you wanted to do it per, like what does it cost today to do it, you would take the budget, divide it by the average daily population, so the 459 or whatever it is, and then divide that by 365. On the day she sent this to me, which was on the 29th of July, it was $94.98.
Yeah, which is,
Yeah, it's
So-
$95 to $100 a day per inmate cost.
So if we talked to Lubbock about what it would be at that more realistic rate,
No.
we have not.
No, because all of our, I believe that all of our contracts go off of that, dividing it by your total jail capacity.
They were housing some
Which is
in Archer
too
County,
low.
I think, for $54 a while back.
But guys, using that total capacity is that's not a real rate.
Well,
No.
and I'm worried,
That's how the
We
Texas
lose
jail
money at
standard
that.
sure,
tells us to calculate it.
because
But
other counties are doing it
to
at a higher
your
rate
point,
than we
we
are.
are, and I was looking at the budget numbers this morning, we're projected, it's gonna be close, but we're probably gonna spend right at that full budgeted amount. for a year where our daily population was 275 people fewer than what we're figuring our per diem rate on.
Yeah.
That's
That
if,
means
that's if you were maximum full, but really, true population is probably 90% is what the state would want you to be at of your beds.
So even at that 90% rate, you're still talking a census of 650.
650 or
Um,
something, yeah.
And if we ever ran up even close to that number, what we're budgeting for wouldn't
Wouldn't
Correct.
even close.
be close to covering.
So,
We don't want any $62 business.
No.
No.
That is costing us.
it'd be cheaper for us to pay them $62 and
Let's
house
send
our
ours
people.
out there for 62.
Yes.
We're costing the Wichita
Yeah.
County taxpayers money if we charge them $65.
I had a long discussion with Commissioner Watts about this. I don't know that that's true either, because to some degree, we've got sunk costs. We are gonna have this level of staffing,
Yeah.
whether it's 400 inmates or 550 inmates, staffing is what it is.
Staffing and staffing.
So you're talking about a marginal then change of food.
No. You're very.
Well, you have
Dollar.
fixed cost and you have variable.
Right.
Right.
Our variable cost for our inmates. are pretty
$1.46 a meal per inmate, 3 times a day.
Okay, so let's call that $5.
Okay.
Medical, that change? by-
Just-
by-
No, they're
by-
covering-
We're paying based on a 550
About
number.
550.
We're paying, I mean, the employees are gonna be there anyway, so we're not changing staffing numbers.
So which goes back to, we're mostly talking about
The variable cost.
the variable costs, which are much below 62.57.
So we are making money, we're not reimbursing ourselves at the full rate that it cost us if they were our own inmates.
And are y'all have to, in negotiating the interlocal agreement with Lubbock, state says it has to be at that
No,
number?
that's
or
how-
that's just how our other agreements have been?
Right, that number on all of our other out-of-county contracts have been right around that $50 to $60 rate. The first average, the 62.57 is based off how the jail commission tells us to calculate average, the cost per day.
If you were able to reach out to a number of entities, say in our case 50 entities, and I'll give them 50 inmates apiece at this rate, we could drop your budget wheel by $6.3 million and farm out every inmate we had in.
But there's not
lots
enough
of
beds in the state.
There's
to
not
do
enough
that.
beds, but
No,
then,
no,
but then
no.
we're gonna hire people for transportation to go get them and bring them back and everything else every time we need them in court.
Still also have to cover all the medical, those inmates, wherever they're located.
Yeah, and that's one thing, Lubbock covers this.
Yeah, if they go to the hospital, it's covered under their
Well,
medical.
if they do, they're covered.
Yeah, that's correct, right? They go to the
I would
hospital,
think
it's
so.
covered under their medical.
So what are variable costs? Are they $10 a day? You got food, you're gonna do more laundry,
Yeah,
you're gonna do
probably not much more electricity or anything.
water,
it's-
Yeah, a little water.
A
electricity.
little bit more
Very
water.
much.
Yeah.
Electricity, about the same.
Yeah,
So-
water be up a little and.
We're looking at $40 a day.
Yeah. Other counties I know are charging $80 to $96 a day per, they're out of
What size
county.
are those agencies compared to us? Are they comparable size to us?
They're smaller than we are.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's the question, what are the comps?
Do y'all have when I was looking at the agreement, we have a right of refusal essentially, so I guess what I mean is,
We don't have
We
to
can-
take them.
if
even if
we-
have an agreement.
If we have a
you have
spike,
accept
we can
40,
send them
we have a
back.
spike that we were looking at, okay, we're gonna have to open up another pod. That changes the
I
economics
can't see
here.
everything, yeah.
Y'all, at that point, you could say Lubbock County, you've got 8 hours, I think, come
Come get
your
20, or
folks.
come get 15, or come get all 40.
Okay, and they can't say no, they have
They
to.
have to come.
Okay.
Yeah, we've held some inmates for some other surrounding counties that were real problems for them, and after about 3 or 4 days, we called back to come get your boy, because he's
It's not
gonna be a
working
bigger
well.
problem for us than it is for y'all, so. they'll come back and pick them up, they have to come back and pick them up. And they were paying us to house.
They're probably not gonna bring you their Star Citizen.
Oh, probably not.
Still, the good news is, they save some water because I bet half our population is taking a bath like once every 4 or 5 days, so it's not
Well,
like a
you
kid.
know, and there is some
Yeah.
extra pressure on our staff. I mean, there really is,
Yeah.
especially when you know, I mean, you know,
Oh, yeah.
you've been there.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's worth something,
We got our overtime and staff shortages and.
yeah. Ah, those guys love a pretty good guy, let's do it for 40, you know?
I wouldn't say
Is that your
that.
motion, Commissioner?
No.
Put Barry's name on that one.
No. No, I mean, I don't wanna gouge them, but I think it's worth, I don't know, I think 62 may be a low number. Maybe it's a
Why-
$70.
why don't we
I
do-
know.
Why don't we figure it based on what that budget per diem would be, based on what our actual jail population has been averaged out this year? So I think it's gonna be that 90,
Yes.
that number, 90.
Pretty close.
figure.
Yeah, that estimate of 94.98 was based off an, current population of $473. $473 inmates.
I feel bad for Chief in this, cause he's getting grilled about this and he was trying to come with an idea for how to help solve the
Trying to help
problem.
out some. Or you just,
Yeah, thank you, Will.
yeah. No less than $62, how about
Yeah,
that?
well,
But but two, I mean, that number is just a number, so they could jump at your new number and.
Sure, yeah.
And then you'd be hitting home run.
Well, you
No.
can always lower, but it's really hard to raise that number once you've set that bar.
Well,
What their need is, how bad are they needing?
Yeah.
How bad are they
What are we
needing?
charging the feds?
56.
Not enough, because other counties
I
are
thought we went up
charging-
again.
No,
They're
we're still
charging
working on that.
96 is the fed rate.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna do that as soon as we moved in.
Well, we really couldn't until end of last year when that,
The old one.
yeah, didn't have,
Have we
Yeah,
not
figures for you.
renegotiated it yet?
no, we're still working on my paperwork.
Yeah, 'cause others are charging 96 or over 100 for their fed rate.
But our Fed numbers have been way down from what they were.
I mean, what are we averaging in fed population?
10, when they closed the courthouse here and moved the marshals out.
Why don't we do this? It sounds like the court is not good with authorizing me to sign the agreement because it has that per diem number in it. Do you want me to go back and talk to them about a higher per diem and then come and talk and visit with the court again? If they say, no, it's 6257 or bust, we can have that discussion again.
Okay.
And I think it also might be good, whether that's y'all or whether that's the auditor's office, if we could get any sort of parameter around what those variable costs are.
Look at our Pierre County's comps, what they're charging.
That would also be good.
If any of them actually have bed space to lease.
Yeah.
That's their problem they have out there right now, why they're wanting to send people here, is because they send that many inmates, there's not any jails from here to
Right.
Santa Fe, New Mexico, that's gonna hold people.
And again, I don't want to gouge another county either,
No.
That's
but,
not the point.
I mean, there's a demand there then
Yeah.
that helps Wichita County taxpayers and helps us, so.
That's some
And still
commissioners-
takes care of it for them.
Some of the commissioners remember that we were housing inmates in Jefferson County, and in Waco.
There's not much
Jack
between here
County,
and
Cook
Buckeye.
County.
There's been several times since I've been on the court, we were housing inmates out of county.
Mhm.
Just
Childers,
sitting there.
Cook County,
Yeah,
Jefferson
all over
County.
the place.
And it does put some wear and tear on your
Yeah.
facility. There is a value there.
But
Well,
don't
all
we
this
have,
is a prelude to our next item that we're gonna be talking about, and
Well,
I'm asking the same
Will,
question.
or Lisa, y'all would know, or Dave, that don't we have to concern ourselves too, there is too big a number.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
can't I can't remember what the deal was, but didn't we have some issue or about we have to
In-
watch where,
Well, remember when the IRS came back and because
That's
we
what
were
I'm
building
talking
it and they thought we were building it big and too big because we were building it for profit.
Yeah,
And so we had to go through an IRS audit.
we did.
That sounds fun.
That
When
was
we did-
early
when
on
we
in the
built the jail.
process.
Yeah. But we passed that audit, so.
Yeah.
Joe.
I think that goes
Okay.
back to
Well,
the
and that's one of those,
arbitrage.
it would be hard for anyone to come back and say you're trying to do this
It
for
was-
profit.
Sure.
And anything less than we're paying $94 a day for our own population right now. Okay. All right, so yeah, if you'll visit with them about,
and are we on track right now? You've got 6 months under your belt. Are we at the 50% mark, right, when we look at year-to-date in 561?
I was at 46% at the end of June.
and I
Okay,
looked at it,
so we're-
We're right there.
Yeah.
I looked at it this
running
morning,
good.
it was 40, it was 49, I think.
Yeah.
So we're
good.
tracking.
Okay, great, good job.
Okay. Thank you all. And truly, Chief, you're trying to solve a problem that had come up. Thank you for bringing an idea
Absolutely.
that we could then throw shots at it.
Sure. Absolutely.
Just need a little more information, is all.
No good deed goes unpunished. All right.
Lisa's gonna be sick next
Come
week.
down.
That takes us to general business item number 5, which is discuss, consider, and/or take action to authorize county judge to sign an interlocal agreement for the improvement of Decker Road in Archer County.
And here, I've put together, Judge, just the, what they proposed, which is the FEMA rate schedule on items that we would have to, utilize.
Yeah, that FEMA rate schedule is from 21.
This is what now?
It's from 2021,
So all the rates are actually higher now,
should be.
and their offer was to do it at current FEMA rate, so.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed in that interlocal is that they want to pay anything at regular rate as far as payroll.
Yes.
Well, what if we have to do our regular job first for our county taxpayers, and then we're gonna do that for them, and we're incurring overtime? They're not paying overtime, there's no fringe benefits in there, no payroll taxes. So
Now-
potentially, our taxpayers could be footing some of the bill for their road.
Now, I was thinking that they're paying the FEMA man-hour rate.
That was on the equipment.
Yeah, that's not in the agreement.
It's FEMA equipment and it's regular rate on payroll, and it just says our regular hourly rate. So if there's any overtime or
It's-
payroll taxes, retirement, none of that is included in this per se agreement.
It's gonna be in Roman numeral 3B.
Mhm.
I'm having a hard time with the language in 4.
Roman numeral
Relationship of
3B.
Yeah, so 3B is Archer County agrees to reimburse Wichita County for the billed labor at the regular hourly rate that Wichita County pays the persons who perform the
Yeah.
project.
Because we were used to, under the grant stuff, that we have operator hours here and we have regular man hours here, but we used that FEMA rate on all of those. Because our regular rate, there was a sheet, Cheryl, that calculated, and your office gave it to us, every person carried that rate, and it was a total of taking into account all of those things.
I'm just
So,
saying the language is ambiguous because it doesn't say to use the
Right.
FEMA rate where it does in the equipment side.
Sure.
So the language is ambiguous. It indicates that they're only gonna pay a regular hourly rate with no.
And Commissioner Beecham, you were saying something?
Yeah, just in 4, it says, the intent of the parties of Wichita County performing these services specified in this agreement shall act as an independent contractor. I don't know that that's our mission, is to act as an independent contractor.
No.
Is that,
I think they're trying
Part
to,
of that is insurance probably too.
Right, I think they're trying to say that they would not be responsible for any liability insurance either for our equipment or our personnel.
And I get that, but I think we step outside of being a government agency when we put language in there that we're an independent contractor.
You're correct.
Mel, did you have other?
Not really. I was just going to say that typically in our agreements we always have some language like that in a lot of other instances where we're doing things. It's not uncommon language, but
Okay.
it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't detract from your point or anything.
No.
Yeah, I would love for us to be able to help out Archer County, take care of something for them that they're not equipped and able to do easily. What I want to make sure we don't have happen is we end up, for lack of a better term, doing free work or charity work for another county that's on the back of Wichita County taxpayers.
And there was two reasons for this ask from them. One, first and foremost, they don't have a rock box, they don't have the equipment to do this type of deal. They have currently purchased a grinder, which was the first thing we did. We purchased a grinder too to be able to do this kind of rehab. They're wanting to see how this works in conjunction. Basically, we're helping them. They wanted us to help them do it so they can see how this operates, to see if it's something they can purchase also. They're trying to use this to see if it's something they can move forward on to get their own type of equipment also. That was the ask when it first came over. And like I said, I brought it before all the commissioners and the judge. And at the time, it all seemed like it's a good thing. We don't want to do anything that'll cost Wichita County taxpayers any money. And that's not their intent either.
Sure.
This is a job that should probably take, in all reality, this is not like we have to do work and then go do work for them in the evening. There shouldn't be any overtime in this. Right now, there wouldn't be any overtime. We've been chip sealing 3 precincts already, and we're chip sealing anywhere from 3 miles to 5 miles a day, and we're usually done by 1 to 2 p.m. There's not been any overtime. This stretch of road for them is 2.5 miles, which is under what, I think it's 2.5 miles, which we should be able to do as a county, the 4 precincts working together. We should be able to do this in 1 8-hour day and have it done and complete for them. Their commissioners, their road crews can work with, in conjunction with our people helping, and see how everything's done to see if it's something that county can move forward to purchasing and working forward to having that type of equipment. That was the reason their commissioner came to us asking for assistance in this. I think that's and it is adjoining to our, it's very close to our county. Because that reason, that's the reason I thought it was a good idea. I would have loved, right now, if I knew Will Barger had a asphalt laying machine and we're looking at buying one, if they would come over and do one of our roads and let us pay for everything
Right.
to see how it works,
Demo
that would be invaluable to Wichita County.
Yeah.
So,
And we're not going to the other side of a gargle to do this.
no, and it's not something that's it's not something that we're gonna do for them in the future. It's not something that we're doing to cost, and it will not cost the county taxpayers here any money. So that kinda gives you a better layout of the reason for all of it.
And they do have a lot of, right now, they've done no work, and they're going, and I don't think they realize the extent of the work they need to have accomplished. Jack's met with them and gave them some, ideals of, after grinding, how to blade and how to throw that road, and maybe possibly re-grinding again. Jack really don't think they can be ready until the end of August, and we will be way through with our processes by then.
And if they don't get done, then we can't chip seal it. They have to have their part done.
And in their defense, even if they grind the road and prep it right, it's far better left that way until next year than it is the way it is right now. It's just, it is multiple patch upon patch, and they probably have the material there. It's just a smaller width of road, it's not very wide, and so I think that they're going to improve themselves at all processes they do here. And then, like Mickey said, they anticipate, you know, this to be a day project. At the most, it would be 2, or take 2 days, but they would be 2 half days more than likely. And the material's located a mile from there down at Wells Road, which is Turkey Ranch. Going around 1954 is pretty close to that. But it's we utilize our dump trucks. With the commissioner, they're a staff of 3, including the commissioner. So it's a pretty difficult process, and that's what really limits them there. And I'm sure they may want to bring other precinct hands over to watch the operation and such, but I think all in all, it's be relatively quick. It'll take us longer to get there than it will to actually do the job.
Okay. Because we talked about it a second ago. Did you say that you thought there was a FEMA rate on the labor as well?
I thought there was. I was operating under the assumption, because this sheet I gave you is what he sent to me. This is what Wade sent to me, all of these items. Now, the truck and tractor, we won't have any haul equipment involved. We don't use that in our operation to put equipment out. We only use the dump trucks, and we use our dump trucks because they have special hitches on them that have to hook up to our rock box. And so that's why we would utilize our trucks and bring that material from a mile down the road to ourselves. And we would use the distributor, the chip spreader. They don't have a pneumatic roller, and they don't have a broom, so we would actually take those over there. But the truck and the big truck, semi-haul equipment, that wouldn't be part of this equation at all. Unless he means that in the form of moving equipment. And to breaking it to job location. And that may be why he put that on there like this.
So are we wanting to go and make some of those modifications, or?
Yeah, I would think any of them's heartburns in the agreement, and Mel pencil those, like what Cheryl pointed out, to clarify that our charge here, or to specify maybe there's a new rates. Does it say, Cheryl, that it's the 21 FEMA rates, or does
Yeah, when I went to the website that's listed in this agreement, it's there for 2021.
I would assume there's an updated.
And the language in the agreement's fine, because it says from the FEMA schedule that's in effect
Sure.
at the time the work is
For the
performed.
equipment,
okay.
it's just the personnel, the hourly rates.
So we're good under local government code, doing work fully outside of our jurisdiction with no contiguous connection.
I believe so. I don't think there's anything that would prevent that.
kind of
If
like
it's what you wanna do, if it's up to you guys on how you wanna deploy your manpower.
Yeah, it's very similar to housing inmates from another county in our county, so I guess
It's pretty broad what you can agree to do with other counties to work together, or other government
As long as
entities.
the board is.
It'd be no different than having Clay County, Wichita County deputies go to Clay County and help on some kind of incident over there. Fire departments, law enforcement.
And you
There's
know,
not a,
TAC has that program right now, which we've never really pursued, but for idle equipment, they have a interlocal / lease arrangement set up, and they're the mediator in between. So us and some other county wants to use our haul equipment, and we wanted to lease it to them for a week, then they negotiate that out. We've just never been excited about that.
So really, the motion would be, the agreement shows that it would be at the current rates. I'd say the motion would be as it stands.
Well, except the labor is a problem.
We just need to clarify
We
and
need to
get that.
clarify that. I don't think it should be paid at the regular hourly rate. I think it should include.
It should include benefits,
Yeah.
but this right here even
At
includes.
the actual rate, actual
Yeah, but that's
compensation
not-
rate.
That's just an extra, that's just a
Yeah.
document. It's not anything part of the agreement.
So you wanna, the regular motion then would be, we can go with this regular motion, just have a sub deal that said it, at actual cost for labor rates.
Well, and I mean, I would want to bring back an actual finalized language on the agreement. I'd want to bring it back before this body to approve
Okay.
regardless. Instead
Yeah, let
of
us do
y'all
a little
giving me the
homework on
ability to
that.
then go negotiate something
So
separate and you
pull it
never see
off.
it again. I think so.
Just pull it and,
So just take no action.
yeah.
And it sounds like too, from what Commissioner Watts was saying, we're still a month and a half out from being able to do the work.
Yeah, we've got time here, but we'll clean that up on the man hours and how to do that. But I was thinking, Cheryl, and
I don't know of that rate, but of that schedule, and I didn't see it immediately when I
But
just looked
I'm
at
thinking-
FEMA, but
I'm
we
thinking
can
though,
check it.
that in the TxDOT grant, that your office calculated us that man-hour rate, so we had, if Billy, Joey, and Eddie were out there working, we could have 3 different man-hour rates. Because Billy might be at 32, Johnny at 30, and Billy at 28, because their hourly rates were different and their insurance rates were different. But it was a complex spreadsheet that you gave us that took in those costs.
I'll have to look at it, cause I know when we filed for the actual reimbursements and stuff, we did it at actual costs with all the fringe per hours worked per each
Right.
employee, so I'm not sure what schedule was
Okay.
given to you, and I can look.
I'll get Debbie to pull something that shows us a spreadsheet of what
But if
those,
there is a FEMA schedule or something else, we at least need to reference that,
Okay.
that we're gonna follow that, otherwise it needs to be actual costs, which
Gotcha.
is fine. I just don't want us putting any of that hourly bill rate with
right.
misconceptions, so.
Okay. Well then, it sounds like we're gonna take no action. We've discussed and we'll come back later. Any other comment or questions on this item? All right, moving along to general business item number 6, discuss, consider, and or take action to approve option A or option B of M&F Litigants Wichita County Courthouse 2021 renovations proposal request number 73. Option A is to furnish and install HM door, frame, and hardware in the northwest stairwell, remove existing door frame and hardware going from stairwell to sally port, infill with CMU and paint. That would be an additional $10,838. Option B is to furnish and install HM door, frame, and hardware in the northwest stairwell, remove hardware from door going into sally port, and weld door shut and paint. That would be an additional $7,990.
Yeah, this work is necessary as it's dealing with fire egress from the building right now. That stairwell opens up into the old Sally Port, and now that that's no longer a 24/7, 365 functioning operation, dropping that fire exit into the closed Sally Port leaves anyone that takes that exit in a no exit situation.
Well, what happens, now, are we talking about this stairwell here, right out here?
Yeah, the one that,
The one by the doors, the roll-up doors for the side port.
No, I'm talking about if we, there was an issue, and Lisa helped me with it a long time ago, that when we did active shooter and we had to go down that stairwell and drop out into the sally port, Lisa made sure that door was open to the stairwell so we weren't trapped in the stairwell by going down from here. Is that the one we're talking about? Okay.
Yeah, it's a necessity. We've got to choose one or the other, and both will function equally as well, so.
But we'll still have access down this stairwell to get into the sally port, right?
No, no.
So what would happen if,
That door would either be walled off or welded shut.
well, what would we do? If,
We would go out, we would
There'll
spill
be a
out into the
door put in
driveway.
Going outside.
do what?
The door goes outside now.
It'd go straight to the outside.
Oh, we
world.
can get out of
Yeah.
the stairwell?
That's the point, yeah.
Okay, okay. That, I just didn't want us trapped in the stairwell and,
No,
Okay.
since the building function changed, that's a necessity moving forward.
Since it's less expensive, is there any reason not to just weld the door shut?
No, none whatsoever.
and then maybe there's a
Aesthetics.
bigger overhaul coming to the sally port one day that we can, if it needs to be addressed then, we can do it then.
So your motion?
My motion be to accept option B at $79.90.
Second.
Who had it? We'll give it to, we haven't had, Jeff had the last one, we'll do this one for Keaton. All right, the motion is to approve option B at $7,990. Motion was made by Commissioner Beecham and seconded by Commissioner Buchanan. Do we have any other comments or questions on this item? All right, motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. General business item number 7, discuss, consider, and or take action to approve option A or option B of M&F Whittington's Wichita County Courthouse 2021 renovations proposal request number 76. Option A, this would change the colors to the temporary courtroom from what was previously selected. The flooring and the doors previously selected will be delivered to the county to be used elsewhere. Also furnishing new pre-finished oak doors as selected. That will add $39,955. Option B is the same as option A, except furnishing new unfinished oak doors and stain and seal the doors on site. That would be the cost of $35,360. Glenda, I feel like we should get you up here behind door number 1.
Like door number 1, door
Yes.
number 2.
All right.
The colors have been requested to be changed versus what they are now. And the only difference is when you buy pre-finished door, the finish on it is generally a higher quality. A unfinished door, you are based on just what will be stained. It's not a huge difference. We typically specify that they're pre-finished doors, and it's just that there was a lot of question about whether the stains would match exactly the stains of the wood grain that we got on site. And so we asked them to price it both ways. It's a $4,000 difference.
And it's a $4,000 difference, and leaving them unfinished does give us more flexibility and responsiveness on this.
Yes.
We're still gonna have to pay somebody to seal them and stain them though. Stain
Yeah.
them.
So that's all included in option B, the staining and sealing.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. So the original doors, when we had the first change order to make that the CPS court, the doors were ordered to match the doors that were already existing on the 3rd floor. And it's been asked to not do that, so.
Yeah, because the purpose of the courtroom has changed.
Well, the lower option is option B.
Does the judges?
Judge, do you have any comment on this?
I'll answer questions, but I don't have any comment.
Okay. I mean, I think that at this point, there's been a lot of people have done a lot of work to try to get everything matching up as well as it can. And so I think giving ourselves, it's A, the cheaper option, and B, it's giving us the ability to match directly on site.
So I make a motion to accept option B.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right, the motion by Commissioner Fincannon and seconded by Commissioner Beecham is to select option B at $35,360. Do we have any public comment or other questions or comments on this item? Okay, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 8, everyone's getting hungry and ready for lunch. That's not what item 8 says. Item 8, discuss, consider, and/or take action to amend Court Order 23.0703.401 to read as follows with change in bold letters. To approve the purchase of the Tech 84 Intercept body scanner through the Allied States Cooperative at a cost of $139,000. In bold, plus shipping of $2,500 and $22,500 for 3 years of additional warranty starting month 13, not bolded, to be paid from LEC bond funds from lines to be determined by the county auditor.
We obviously didn't add shipping.
Yeah, we didn't add shipping, which we have to do.
Yeah, the shipping-
That's a necessity.
Can,
There is enough money for all of that.
okay. Will one of y'all speak to the warranty?
So it comes with a 12-month warranty, but then after that, there isn't any warranty. When I initially talked to him, he's actually giving us the price for 2022, which is, I think it's $7,500 a year. That price in 2023 goes up to, I believe he said $8,600. So, I mean, we're buying a $140,000 piece of equipment with a 12-month warranty on it. And then if we wait to purchase it after the fact, it's going to cost us more.
Okay.
So.
I remember some part of that discussion, a service agreement, that was separate, or
I thought there was like a 5-year something agreement.
no? Just making that up.
So, but actually, we'll have 4 years worth.
Yeah, we'll
of-
have, with, if this gets approved, we'll have 4 years of warranty work on this.
Okay, I make that motion, Judge.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion to approve the extra shipping and the 3 years of additional warranty, shipping at $2,500, the warranty at $22,500. That motion was made by Commissioner Watts and seconded by Commissioner Mahler. Do we have any other comment or discussion on this item? All right, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Which brings us to item number 9, receive update on courthouse renovation, elevator projects, and county courthouse annex.
Not a lot, again, to update, it's just pretty much business as usual. They were on site last week. It will take 2 elevator techs to fix the rubbing noise that we have in the one elevator cart that's working. So they're supposed to reschedule a time to come back and take care of that. I don't know a timeline on getting the elevator car 2 up and operational, nor do I know a time for the annex. Today, we've got the annex elevator powered down. We're relocating the power lines to it, so.
Now, with the decision we made on the doors for the temporary courtroom, do we know about how long we expect
We can
to
use
take
the
on
doors that we have in stock right now that just will not match. Carpet still has to get here,
that? Okay.
so. They're gonna start staining this week, is my understanding.
Okay. 4 to 6 weeks maybe, or is that too quick? Don't know.
I don't know, I'll have to get Shaw carpet.
The doors, for just the door, and we'll use the existing doors that are there now as much as we can, but the doors are a 12-week lead item. So the new doors won't begin.
Won't stop us from having.
Right.
Yeah,
We can put the non-matching doors in and change them out.
So it'll be a hodgepodge mess for a little bit.
Okay. has been, the carpet has been ordered?
This will allow the carpet to be
Okay.
ordered.
Any other questions on courthouse renovation?
We don't have much else, so.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, we intend to go into closed session pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, which allows us to do that with consultation with attorney. And we're going to do a briefing and discussions with Wichita County District Attorney's Office on pending or contemplated litigation. So I'd ask everyone to clear the room unless you are the county civil attorney. we are coming back into open session to consider and/or take action to authorize the county judge to sign a retainer agreement for Public Information Act declaratory judgment action. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes so that the public can know what's going on here. I'm going to take a couple of minutes to highlight what we're doing and why we are where we are. So what this action would be, it would allow for the county to engage the legal services of Allison Bass and McGee to pursue a declaratory judgment action in order to obtain legal permission to release ballots to be viewed to the public, to be viewed by the public. Declaratory judgment allows us to come before a judge and ask for him or her to determine whether or not we can release ballots to be viewed by the public before the end of a 22-month preservation period that state law prescribes. We're here because a member of the public requested to view absentee election ballots for the November 2021 election. Those records are subject to a 22-month preservation period where they cannot be viewed in response to a public request. Due to that fact that the law says we couldn't release them, the county requested permission from the Office of the Attorney General to withhold them. In June, the Office of the Attorney General indicated that we were to release the records anyway. And obviously this puts the county, and more specifically the custodian of election records, in an unwinnable position. We either knowingly violate the law by releasing the records, or we go against an Attorney General instruction. I will add this. The legislature knew that there had been confusion created along this and passed House Bill 5180 this session, which clarified the law and made it clear that public inspection of ballots can occur 60 days after elections. Now, unfortunately, into all of this, that law does not take effect until September 1st of this year. So we're still operating under the old law, which has the 22-month preservation period. I know that this court desires transparency. We've talked about it a lot of times in the last 7 months. We want to be compliant with Public Information Act requests, and we want to give access to the public where they should have access, where they're entitled to by law. Unfortunately, we're in a position where that desire to be transparent runs up directly against what state statute says. And it's put us in a weird position of, do we comply with the law? Or do we comply with the AG instruction? What the declaratory judgment would allow us is to get a firm legal decision by a judge to ensure that the county is compliant with the law. What we would like to see happen, I think, is for a judge to come back and say, you can release them. We would love to release them. We know we are going to release them on September 1st, but the law is what the law is right now until September 1st. So if we are authorized to release the records, as we hope we are allowed to do, we will do so. If a judge comes back and tells us that releasing them is in violation of the law, then we will withhold them until the law changes on September 1st. Again, this is not an ideal place to be, because we're going to have to pursue some legal action to get clarity from a judge on something we all know what we'd like to do. We'd love to release the records. And again, this is something that is only an issue for the next 50 days or so. On September 1st, the new law goes into effect, and we can, and we know what those parameters will be. But here we are. So I'll circle back around. What the action that's before the court today would be to authorize the county judge to sign the retainer agreement with Allison Bass and McGee to pursue that declaratory judgment action to give us some clarity. Commissioner Kincannon makes the motion to authorize. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Watts seconds the motion. Do we have any public comment or any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. It is 1:06.